For June 11th, 2019 of the Brooklyn Select Board. First, any announcements from board members? Ms. Hamilton?
There is going to be a public feedback forum on scooters, the scooter pilot program, in this room tomorrow at 6:30.
Okay. Mr. Franco?
I wanted to recap what was a very busy weekend here in Brookline. I had the pleasure of going to several of the concerts that took place as part of Porch Fest on Saturday, and saw a wide variety of different types of music and experienced a wide variety of different types of porches, and found it very pleasurable. And I know I saw many of my colleagues on the board as well as many members of the community there. Also on Saturday, I had the pleasure of attending a portion of the Boston Pride Parade downtown, and was really happy to see the town represented through the libraries. They were marching, so I think that certainly is a representation where they represented how I feel about things, and I think it's really important that the town be on record, and I'm glad the libraries were to be on the record to support inclusion. And then on Sunday, I know I saw several of my colleagues at the Brookline Village Festival as well, which was a great community event, and I was happy to see the water truck there, as I'm sure the chair was as well, but also Brookline businesses and town staff and members of the broader Brookline community there as well for that convening and celebration on what was a beautiful weekend day.
I'd like to announce right in front of us are two pictures of a student at Pierce School, Zoe Galaberta, who was police chief for the day. And those are pictures that were taken at her swearing-in ceremony at the Pierce School's amphitheater. And she was able to go to roll call, engage in a lot of other police chief type activities throughout the day. And I'm sure it was a lot of fun for her, as well as something that really was very educational for her and her class and the entire school, which participated in the event. So people want to come up at not now, but later on and see the pictures. I'm going to give them to her family. They're really nice pictures and mementos of that special day for her. So, are there any public comments?
May I just jump in?
Sorry.
My colleague just informed me about International Day of Yoga. As someone who cannot touch his own toes, except when bending, I should probably go to this. Thursday, June 20th, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. That's going to be at Cypress Field across from Brookline High School. There'll be an opportunity to engage in some yoga, and maybe you'll see me out there. Thanks.
Okay. Yes.
I'll just announce that there will be a meeting of the Brookline High School Expansion Advisory Committee, the full committee, on Wednesday at 7 o'clock, so we'll miss your scooter event. But you will note, if you've gone by the high school, that there are fences, and they're beginning the setup for the construction activity. The heavy-duty kind of stuff, the shovels in the ground, won't happen till the students leave. But they're doing the setup work now so that they can get a jump on the warm weather construction season.
Good. Okay.
So, very exciting.
Good. Okay, moving on to minutes for May 14 and May 21. I have a couple edits or corrections for May 14. Anyone else have any corrections? Okay. Move approval as corrected. Mr. Franco.
Aye.
Ms. Heller.
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Next, question of awarding and executing contract PW 19-32 with Pine Ridge Technologies of Wakefield, Massachusetts, in the amount of $48,393 for the installation of rectangular rapid flash beacons on LaGrange Street at Princeton Road and Newton Street at Princeton Road. Mr. Ditto.
Good evening. On Thursday, May 23rd, proposals for the rectangular rapid flash beacons Works opened, and we received 2 bids. Low bidder was Pine Ridge Technologies at $48,393. The work in this contract includes installing rectangular rapid flashing beacons on LaGrange Street at Princeton Road and Newton Street at Princeton Road. These flashing beacons will enhance the Baker School safe routes to school improvements. Funds for the construction of this project were generated from the 10 cent per ride surcharge on the transportation network companies, the TCNs. Pine Ridge actually installed what this is going to be at Winthrop and Beacon Street. It's the flashing lights that get your attention quite nicely. So we recommend that you award and execute the contract to Pine Ridge.
Great. Any questions? Okay, move approval of awarding of contract PW 1932 with Pine Ridge Technologies, Inc. Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Next, question of awarding and executing contract number PW 19-31, professional services for 34 and 35 Martha's Lane certification reports in the amount of $8,200 with Langdon Environmental LLC. Mr. Ditto.
So this contract with Langdon Environmental LLC includes the preparation and the submission of a certification report for numbers 34 and 53 Martha's Lane. This is required by the Department of Environmental Protection under the 310 CMR 19. Basically, this puts the final cap on the landfill closure. These are the last 2 properties that have to be certified and sent to the Mass DEP. The principal at Langdon Environmental is Bruce Haskell, and he actually worked for Camp Trestle McKee when this closing was taking place. He has gone off on his own now, and we recommend him highly in that he knows everything that's gone on in the closing. So we recommend that you award and execute this contract.
Okay. Any questions? Vote approval of awarding and executing contract number PW 19-31 with Langdon Environmental. Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Next, Ms. Galantine. Question of approving an extra work order in the amount of $19,998 with Green Play LLC for consulting services.
Good evening, Erin Galantine, Director of Parks and Open Space in Brookline. And so what you have in front of you is a request for an extra work order for Green Play LLC. What we'd like to do is increase their scope from an assessment of only the athletic fields in Brookline and a full needs assessment, demand analysis, to include all indoor and outdoor recreational assets and programs. So a little bit of context. When you initially approved this scope of work a couple weeks ago, we had been working on developing an update to our strategic plan for about a year. And initially, we were going to update the entire plan. We have a 2006 plan that was actually authored by Green Play. It has been an incredibly useful guiding document for the Recreation Department, for the Parks and Open Space Division, and the Park and Recreation Commission. At that point in time, when we were kind of ready to put that forward, the former recreation director gave her notice. And so we kind of took a few steps back, There had been a lot of inquiries at the time about the incredible need and demand for access to athletic fields. Former chairman Neil Shinsky was involved. We did a scoping session for Cypress Field. As you can recollect, there was a huge amount of interest. And so what we decided at the time, since we didn't have a permanent rec director, was to pull that section out of the entire scope and move forward. As you know, we now have a incredible permanent recreation director, and it makes a huge amount of sense for us to really do the full scope of work. This company is uniquely qualified and positioned to do the work. Their fee for the increase of services is incredibly reasonable, and a lot of the work, you know, their time out here, the meeting with our focus groups, public meetings, the community survey is already covered in our initial contract. So Director Lee Jackson would be here this evening to tell you how excited she is about this full scope. She has an off-site meeting, but we are positioned to move forward with our public meetings and think that this will be an incredibly useful guiding document for the town. We are looking at short-term, kind of midterm and long-term goals and strategies that will look out about 20 years.
Great. Any questions?
So the funds for this is coming out of an already existing account,
The funding
which
for
is
this.
adequate to cover it.
That's right. It's coming from an existing account. It's actually retained earnings through the Recreation Department.
Mr. Chair, if I could say, maybe mostly for Mr. Fernandez's benefit, the board is asked to approve these contracts because the appropriation language of town meeting requires it, or under some underlying law. You don't approve all contracts of the town, but only those that have a specific language based on the appropriation at town meeting. This one in particular, I believe it was the initial contract was funded with the BAA trust fund, which you are required to approve, and that's why you're being asked to approve it. So some of these contracts seem pretty small. You may wonder why you're approving them. It's because of the initial contract language that mandates the select board to approve these specific contracts.
Okay, all in favor? Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you
Next.
very much. We look forward to providing you updates as we move through the process.
Thank you.
Go get them.
Okay, question of approving contract number PW 19-22, feasibility study of the Davis Path Footbridge with Lero Engineers, Inc. of Boston, in the amount of $64,447. Mr. Ditto again.
Okay, the work under this contract includes the performance of a feasibility study, including development of early action plan to address current deficiencies for continued use of the footbridge. We received 2 bids, and if you look at your cover sheet, you can see there's a pretty large discrepancy between the low bidder and the second bidder. It's $149,100 for the Weston and Sampson proposal. We reviewed the proposals and decided that there were 4 people on the committee, and we all agreed unanimously that Liro is the candidate that can give the town the best bang for its buck. The study itself will involve several tasks, starting with project initiation, footbridge inspection and investigation, structural analysis, development of an early action plan, existing conditions report and feasibility study, 2 public meetings, and investigating construction funding.
Okay, any questions?
So, Mr. Ditto, I believe that this is the bridge that we do expect students who are the ninth graders primarily at the Lincoln School to be using, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so the question I have is, will this work be done in time?
Yes,
So you anticipate the finish date of this contract?
before September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, before we vote, I don't mean to embarrass you, Mr. Ditto, but last night you were awarded an award by the Neighborhood Alliance, or Brookline Neighborhood Alliance organization for your 50 years of work, great work here for the town of Brookline. So congratulations, and we should have mentioned that during the announcements, but I'm doing it now. So, thank you. So,
It was my pleasure, every minute.
okay, so I move for approval of the contract PW 19-22 with Lee Rowe Engineers, Inc. Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Mrs. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, question of approving the following transfer within the Department of Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Relations from professional technical services to professional dues and memberships in the amount of $3,000.
Good evening, Justin Casanova Davis, Assistant Town Administrator, here to ask approve for a transfer of $3,000 from the professional technical line to the professional dues and memberships line. This is largely a housekeeping matter. For the past couple of years, we've been paying for gear out of the professional technical services line, largely because of the consulting services that they provide to the town. But considering it's a membership, the Comptroller's Office, the Select Board's Office wants to appropriately pay for it out of the memberships line. So we want to move the money that we've been typically paying from there to the membership line and pay for it.
Any questions? Move approval of the transfer from professional technical services to professional dues memberships. Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Question of approving transfer within the human resources appropriation from salaries to office equipment in the amount of $4,070. Mr. Casanova Davis again.
Yes, so here to ask for the transfer of $4,000. That's going to utilize salary savings from the vacant HR director position to fund office equipment for the HR director's office and well-worn furniture in the office in general.
Any questions? Move approval of the transfer within human resources appropriation. Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Question of approving the following transfer within the building appropriation. $10,000 from salaries to natural gas and water, $7,500 for natural gas, $2,500 for water. Is Mr. Casanova Davis again, come on down.
On behalf of Charlie and the building department. So they're going to utilize salary savings from the salaries line to pay for natural gas and water, just at the end of fiscal year transfer to make sure our accounts are all set for the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Are you on this one too?
I'll do this one as well, yeah.
This is an easy one.
Yeah.
Question of accepting a rebate check in the amount of $2,624.80 from National Grid for energy conservation measures.
The town always likes to get some rebates for conservation measures. It's a reflection of the good work that we're doing, so.
Great. Any questions? Okay, move approval. Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay, next, question of adopting a proclamation acknowledging Dr. Kate Hendricks for her 50 years of service with Girl Scouts of America. And I'll read it, it's not that long. This is a local resident who's done incredible work for the Girl Scouts. Whereas Sunday, June 9, 2019. Oh, hi, okay. I'm sorry, I've never met you, so I didn't realize that you were okay, great. Whereas on Sunday, June 9, 2019, Dr. Kate Hendricks will be honored, or was honored, at a reception by the Brookline Service Unit of Girl Scouts of Eastern Massachusetts, honoring her 50th year as a member of Girl Scouts USA. Whereas 2019 will also be Dr. Kate Hendricks' 40th year serving as an adult volunteer for Girl Scouts USA. Whereas Dr. Kate Hendricks has devoted a lifetime of service to Girl Scouts USA in the town of Brookline. Whereas Dr. Kate Hendricks committed herself to the Girl Scouts during her elementary and secondary school years, starting in second grade and continuing through high school graduation. Whereas Dr. Kate Hendricks' 50 years as a Girl Scout, her many accomplishments, or during Dr. Kate Hendricks' 50 years as a Girl Scout, her many accomplishments have been remarkable, including earning the status of Girl Scout First Class, the highest award in Girl Scouting at the time. Whereas Dr. Kate Hendricks began leading her first troop in college in 1986, and over the course of her 40 years of volunteer work, she has overseen 3 separate troops from second grade Brownies through high school ambassadors, 2 of them in Brookline. Whereas Dr. Kate Hendricks has also been instrumental in the development of a mentorship program within Brookline for the Girl Scout Gold Award, which is a prestigious award earned by less than 6% of all Girl Scouts nationwide. Whereas illustrative of Dr. Kate Hendricks' meritorious leadership of Girl Scouts USA in Brookline, there have been 6 Girl Scout Gold Awards earned by Brookline Girl Scouts over the past 5 years. Whereas after graduating her last troop in 2013, Dr. Kate Hendricks has turned her attention to mentoring adults by supporting the adult leaders who support the girls. And whereas as a result of Dr. Kate Hendricks' remarkable work with adult leaders of Girl Scouts USA and on Girl Scout troop development, there are dozens of adult leaders in the Brookline area who are stronger advocates, mentors, and role models for Brookline Girl Scouts. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Brookline Select Board, on behalf of the residents of the town of Brookline, Massachusetts, and with great appreciation for her contributions to Brookline Girl Scouts, and Girl Scouts USA, hereby proclaims our sincere gratitude and thanks to Dr. Kate Hendricks for her 50 years of meritorious service to Girl Scouts USA and the town of Brookline. Thank you and congratulations. So we don't usually do this, but why don't we sign the proclamation and give it to her right here? Will that work?
We'll have to go get it.
Oh, okay.
all right.
We have one in color.
While he's doing that, my name is Connie Clausen, and I am the volunteer recruitment specialist for Brookline Girl Scouts, which is a very fancy title, meaning I'm responsible for putting troops together. My ability to put troops together is limited only by my ability to find adult volunteers. But I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the Select Board for the overwhelming support of the town in general for our organization. Because of the strong commitment from the town of Brookline, we have a Brownie troop that was painting the Pride sidewalk last weekend. We've had a junior troop present. We've had a junior troop present a warrant article for your consideration. We had a cadet troop that shot a STEM commercial that aired during the Super Bowl. We've had Girl Scouts that have earned their bronze and silver awards by committing recycling projects or doing projects in public buildings and schools. You have allowed us to use all of your buildings, schools, churches, public buildings for free of charge, which is enormous for a nonprofit. We have little girls earning 90 cents a box on cookies, and the fact that they have a place to meet for free is huge. We've had support from every department of the town. We have girls doing workshops at the police station. We have girls doing workshops at the fire station. We've had the Public Works Department supporting our recycling project. I can't think of a town body that has ever said no when a Girl Scout troop has asked. And I really wanted to take the opportunity to thank you, because us as adult leaders cannot do what we do without the support and guidance of the people and the infrastructures. And it gives our girls an enormous exposure to civic duty and commitment that we would not be able to provide without you. So thank you.
Well, thank you. You want to say something, Dr. Hendricks, or? Let me give you the spotlight. And thank you. Thanks. So next, I think we can do this in omnibus fashion. A bunch of temporary wine and malt beverages sales license first. To Pine Manor College, August 2nd, 2019, for a quinceañera party.
Quinceañera.
Party, quinceañera, okay. Party from 5 to 10 p.m. To Pine Manor College for a wedding from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. To Pine Manor College for August 17, 2019, wedding from 6 to 11 p.m. The previous one was August 16. Question of granting to Pine Manor again for a wedding on August 24th from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And Lars Anderson Auto Museum on June 22nd, 2019, for a 50th birthday party from 5:30 to 11 p.m. Any questions, or
So
Franco, everything in order?
I haven't seen a letter from the police department on a few of these. Did I miss something in our supplemental packet? I'm looking particularly at August 2nd, August 16th.
What number is the item?
6K, L, and N.
Right. Police Department pending on 6K.
I was advised I was told, because I asked that same question, that they have been approved.
Okay.
I don't have them handy, but I was informed that they were.
So we can approve subject to confirmation?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Okay, next.
Go ahead, I'll help.
Question of approving the application of alternate manager Nicholas Angelicola Jr. and Gary T. Tummings for Alden Castle Corporation, doing business as Alden Castle, located at 20 Chapel Street.
Mr. Chair, let me help with this one. This has been kicking around for a while, and I know we were in our town meeting season, so it was kind of hard to address this during that period of time, but since that time, we've teed it up for your consideration this evening. So as we request licensees to do, Alden Castle has identified 2 employees to serve as alternate managers, which we very much recommend. And in this case, there was an incident at the Alden Castle not that long ago that involved one of the applicants, and notwithstanding that, the police department did recommend approval, but as we began to put this on the calendar, it came to my attention that the board had some concerns. I conveyed those to Mr. Campos, who's the manager, as the regular manager, gave him an opportunity whether he wanted to proceed with this evening, indicating that it was a public matter, not necessarily a public hearing, but it was a public meeting, and they very much would like to explain their response to that incident and seek approval of Mr. Tummings as the alternate manager. So they're here this evening to do that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jamie Campos. I'm the Director of Operations for Longwood Venues, who oversees Alden Castle. In a moment, Gary Tummings is going to speak to explain a little bit more of the backstory to the incident that's in question. I do want to say, as a manager of record, I stood before this board maybe less than 6 months ago, 5 months ago, asking for permission to become the manager of record. And we take it very seriously. And I was at the time, talking through, I think, and I don't remember which of the board members asked me, but I was quizzed, if you will, and tested on my knowledge of the alcohol policy, and it is very different in Brookline from other towns. And I passed, apparently, and I was able to explain a little bit more of what we implemented within our company because of what Brookline kind of shed some light on for us as operators. Gary, who I'll let speak in a second, he and I have worked together in previous lives for a number of years. I've known him over 5 years now, and I think very, very highly of him. I think you'll find as you talk to him that hopefully you'll feel the same.
Good evening. Sincerely, this is my first time in front of the board, and the incident that happened, frankly, I'm embarrassed. I've never been in a situation like that before. Over 25 years, I've worked in hotels, and not just hotels, from the Boston Harbor, Assistant Director of Food and Beverage for over 18 years. At one point, with the Revere Hotel, as the Director of Food and Beverage, worked with the Pyramid Hotel Group for over 20 years. I've always handled myself, with credibility and well respected in the city of Boston. The incident that happened, that was my second night actually working. I was less than 2 months on the job. I was at the Alden Castle. There's an event, if I remember well, a version of Harvard University, the young adults. I got a call from my greeter, because we have these specific greeters outside as the guests come in. Said the gentleman who's coming in seems to be a little concerned here. They might be intoxicated. So I spotted the gentleman, watched him. He went upstairs. Then I made sure I alert, as my hotel background will kicked in, alert the staff. Okay, we're not going to serve this gentleman. So let's see. I went over, talked to the gentleman a little bit. Then he went to the bathroom. So I was waiting for him to come back out, and all of a sudden saw some of his friends going in the bathroom. So I said, something must be going on here. When I went in, he passed out on the floor. I was the one who called 911. So right away, when these things happen, they call, 911. I stay on the phone with the DMT. When they arrive, the police arrive. Now, after they took the gentleman away, because we never served, and I was very confident of that. We still have to serve 120 guests. Again, my hotel background, when these things happen, typically the staff want to be distracted. I take ownership. So I stepped up to the officer in charge, the sergeant. He was asking questions, I asked for my ID, I gave to him. And then, I tried to get the staff to go back to focus on the event. I gave the officer he asked who I was, I explained myself. And I said, sir, my business card here, I'm new to the company. Any further question, I can direct my corporate office to contact you, which would be Monday. It was on a Saturday. And the sergeant let me take it out of context, thinking I was trying to impede his investigation. After all this happened, Mr. Campos and I, we went to see Lieutenant Raskin, and we explained. And the sergeant then there said, I understand why. And I said, knowing me over the years, I've dealt with a lot of my years at Boston Harbor Hotel. In terms of, I believe in the community. I've worked with the community. And that's why I'm so embarrassed just the fact here to explain myself, because this will never happen again. Know what I know now, because in the past, I would have just get the information again, offer my business card, have my general manager. There's a security department that deal with different levels. This company is the venues are totally different from a hotel. Basically the buck stop at me if Mr. Campos is not there, so I would have to answer all questions. Now that I'm educated on the company and the policies and what to do if an event happens again, I would, offer my full 100% cooperation, which I've always done in the past. And I've learned from this experience, and again, I'm sincerely apologize, but if I may say, if it's one gentleman who's a law-abiding citizen who have worked with the community for years, my background, as you can check, I assure you, if you get a chance to see that, I'm here, part of this new company. It's almost 6 months, and I'm going to work with the community and do everything. And just as I call, I'm the first, the police, the town, everyone is I understand how important it is, you know, to inform them. They are partners. They are there to protect us. Because in our business of serving alcohol, my job is not only, I'm here also to protect even the person, the client, the patrons who are having a good time. Because sometimes they need to be protected from themselves, and the best person to do that is the town and the police, to keep them informed ahead of what's going on. And again, I'm so sorry. I hope you sincerely hear me here. This incident will never happen again, know that I understand.
Any questions?
Well, so let me say, I think a lot went wrong that night. You know, you're applying to be an alternate manager, but there were some other issues. It seems as though the manager of record wasn't present, which is in direct contradiction to the regulations we have on the surface of alcohol. You know, I take Mr. Tumming's description of a misunderstanding to heart, and you're genuinely remorseful, but something went wrong that night, and there was an exchange between a police officer and an agent of this board through the alcohol regulations that there was a lack of clarity. So why don't you respond to that? What happened that put Mr. Tummings in this situation where he wasn't on the license and the manager of record wasn't there?
So Lieutenant Raskin and I had met prior to me coming into the board to ask for approval to become manager of record. And so there's a section on the documentation where it says the manager of record needs to be there for 50% of the time or up to 40 hours a week. And so I apologize because it was my misunderstanding that I thought that I did not have to be there for every event prior to having a alternate manager selected. And so as soon as he said, I was very surprised, honestly. So Lieutenant Raskin called me the very next day, and he said, Jamie, how come you weren't there? And I said, Lieutenant Raskin, I thought I only had to be here 50% of the time or up to 40 hours per work week. And he said, no, that's only when you have an alternate manager. He said, I want to see you here tomorrow. I said, sir, absolutely. So Gary and I, the next day, went in to meet with him, and I had documentation. I was, you know, listen, I'm a law-abiding citizen with 3 kids. I try to be very responsible. And I was almost shaking as I am showing him the highlighted area that I took notes on, and he said, okay, I understand your confusion. He said, maybe I wasn't clear as well. He said, you need to be there every single time you have an event until you have an alternate manager chosen. I said, absolutely. And I have ever since. So, you know, I know there's rules and regulations, and I absolutely take full ownership for not being there that night. It was a misunderstanding. I made a mistake. I take ownership for that mistake. That's not something that I feel that Mr. Tumming should be penalized for.
So in terms of the incident with the police, could you go into more detail as to, you know, what was the misunderstanding? It seems to me that Mr. Tummings was trying to take control over the situation, and the police were trying to take control of the situation at the same time.
And I think part of the just from a hotel perspective, I worked in hotels for the past 20 years of my life as well, where I met Gary, and when I asked him to join. So my last position was Director of Operations at the Boston Harbor Hotel. So I oversaw all of the operations of the hotel. And a hotel is very compartmentalized, not to bore anybody, but just to give you a little bit of insight. So when an incident occurs, whoever calls 911, security comes right away. The director of security or the senior security manager that's on property. The manager that is involved come, and then a manager on duty comes. And so 3 people are in charge of dealing with that situation. An operations person such as Gary in that situation would give information to help and then kind of step out and go back to deal with serving food and beverage to the 200 people that we had to serve food and beverage to at the time. And then the director of security and the manager on duty would deal with assisting in the investigation. So helping the police if there was some party that they had to talk to, they would grab that one person at a time. They'd give the police the opportunity to have that conversation, and then we'd assign somebody else to cover that bar or whatever it is, and then have somebody else go back. And that's in a luxury hotel, that's the way that it would typically be handled. So I think what happened that night, and I don't want to speak for you, and I will let you speak, is that Gary is kind of pulling from that background, which I'm very familiar with, and he's saying, okay, I know you want to speak with the bartender. Let me help you. I can help you. I need to get him to go back to deal with it. I don't have any other manager that can help me, so I'm going to try to help you all I can and then get back to the event, if you will. And we talked a lot about competing priorities, and in our life now, where we have one person that's working an event, that's responsible for, the event, although it may seem that, the wedding or the bar mitzvah, which is what we typically have for events, or the corporate client or whatever, is the focus. In that situation, it's actually not. And what becomes the focus for us, we have to take our service hospitality hats off and put our safety, life safety, security hats on, and be able to help and assist with that. And if that means that the entree goes out 20 minutes later, which in our life would be a travesty, it's really not. It's not that important.
So how did that conflict with the police coming on the scene?
Please. Yes, absolutely. So when Sergeant, sorry, I don't remember his name, because when I spoke with him and Lieutenant Raskin, he was also very, said, oh no, I understand why. At first, when he asked for my ID, which I did, my license, and the bartender's license, and then he wanted to talk to the bartender and a couple of the servers, and when I stepped in, said, okay, let me handle this, let me have the bartender go back to the bar. I was confident, again, that he didn't serve anyone, so let me to be that person as I would in the hotel to talk to him. At that time, the officers thought that I was hiding something, and he said, like, oh, no, I understood. When we sat down at the station and I talked to Lieutenant, he said, I thought when you stepped in, I said, I'm so sorry, because in the hotel, again, I would take ownership. If I tell you 3 years ago, I witnessed a lot in my time when we have that suicide when you're off, when the lady jumped from the building. I was the one. When everyone was running, staff, everybody was over the place, I was the one who had to make that bold decision to actually make sure I stand there, witness everything was going on, and talk to everyone who comes in, from the police, the EMT, everyone who comes in. So that's something for me that I used to say, okay, let me take this off my staff. So he thought at the moment, referring to the officer, at the moment thought I was covering something, and I say, I'm so sincerely sorry. I said, no, I understand why. Notice I explained myself. Again,
the sergeant also, at the time, had said to us in the meeting that he thought we had a temporary license. So he wasn't familiar with the facility or the building. So he came up. We've never had a call at Alden Castle before, and this call was initiated by us because we were worried about the medical issue that we thought was happening there. So when the sergeant first came on, he thought we had a license that was temporary. And so what he said to us with Lieutenant Raskin, unfortunately isn't here, was, well, I thought there was something else going on. I thought it was a temporary license, that maybe something they didn't have, or that there was an issue there, not realizing that we were a licensed premise as well. So it sounded to me, and I wasn't there that night, but it sounded to me in sitting in that meeting and talking to everybody that there was a lot of confusion. There was confusion on us as an establishment, on our liquor license, if we have the liquor license, on our adherence to the alcohol policy. It sounded like to me that the officer was trying to get IDs, look at tip certifications, and go through the book, if you will, of alcohol policy that we have for Brookline. And at that point, as Gary said, he's trying to work through it and is also confused, and the situation just got exacerbated.
If I may say, lastly, again, as I said, I have two.
You should talk to the mic.
Sorry, I apologize. I have two little girls, and this country has just been great for me. I've been great. I've been here in the city of Boston, clean record, well respected and known when I say that, because I've in my past job, dealing with from the Secret Service, President. I'm not just saying that, but I take my responsibilities. You know, I take them to heart, and that's why I'm so embarrassed. Just the fact that I'm the last person. I would never, ever, ever cross that line to be disrespectful. To be disrespectful, more so to an officer than to anyone. That's not how I was brought up, and I've been thankful for every opportunity that I've been given in this great country. And just to be stand here today to explain to you, you know, sincerely from my heart, you know, sincerely from my heart, now that I have clarity of the expectations from the company and how things are done, I really hope we never have to have these incidents again, because again, you know, serving alcohol and people having a great time, it takes a special leader to understand all the dynamics here and the fine line, and making sure that not wait until something happens, to be proactive, to see that something is going to happen, to call who I consider my best friend. Because many times in my past job, when I reach situation when I think a patient will reach into that point that they're going to get out of control, or we feel that they're getting to that point, one of the lines I always use, and interestingly I always read, because I said, you know, you really don't want to be the person to ruin this event tonight, and I'll be more than happy to call the Boston police. So you tell me, and you tell me, please, if that's what you would want me to do. And I'm not just saying that because I work closely with, you know, with the city, with the police, the fire, all these, you know, I've done that in my past, always, whether it's on holidays, making sure we bring turkeys to it was at City Hall, they coming over to the cafeteria set up for them. It's something I pride myself in, and that's why I'm so excited, because I'm looking forward to do some of those here in Brookline. I'm sincerely, it's a great, I joined this company because of everything that, you know, Jamie, my former boss, talked about this company. They have venues all over. It's very different, but integrated in the community, what I believe in. And again, as I can say to you, I am a law-abiding citizen, and I'm embarrassed, and I'm so sorry, and I do apologize. Whatever happens tonight, I just want to say to you, it's a lesson learned, and you know, it's a lesson learned. It was a hard one, and I understand. I have clarity, and I understand how to handle if such a situation happens again.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? I guess I'll make my comment. You know, the police approved the granting of the application, and I guess I haven't seen anything that would countermand that decision by the police department, so I'll probably vote to approve it. Anyone else have any thoughts or comments?
No, I mean, I think that gentlemen have explained, and we understand the mistakes do get made, and we'd like not to see you back again. But I'm hoping that you've got a thorough knowledge now of how things are done here, and what we expect, and how to keep incident books and that's those kinds of things. So I'm sure that if there is a problem, we hear about it from either you or Lieutenant Raskin.
Thank you very much, Madam. Thank you.
So, all in favor of...
Well, let me, I'm going to move that we divide the question here. And I'm not going to vote against your appointment. I'm going to abstain, because I think you've been compelling tonight, and I'm convinced that that you've learned from this experience. I think the police department has also learned. I take the sort of misunderstanding, lack of clarity about what was going on seriously. But I think, if only as a signal of the fact that I'm not really sure what happened that night, I understand and I believe that we've all moved forward and are better informed. But given that this happened just a few months ago, and I don't feel like I've got really a track record on which to make a decision either way, I'm just going to sort of sit on the fence and abstain. So I want to divide the question here.
Divided between what?
Well, we've got two alternate managers we're talking about appointing, so just take separate votes on the two.
So let's first move alternate. Excuse me. Approving the application of alternate manager Nicholas Angelicola Jr. On favor, Mr. Franco.
Aye.
Ms. Heller.
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Okay, secondly, question of approving the application of alternate manager Gary T. Tummings for Alden Castle Corporation. Mr. Franco.
Abstain.
Ms. Heller.
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And we apologize for the...
Okay, next item. Question of approving the filling of the following position in the building department, administrative head clerk. Mr. Simmons,
Good evening.
good evening.
How are you?
So what's this about?
Several weeks ago, I asked permission to hire for my operations manager, and I was given a resume by my assistant, Sarah Gooding, and I interviewed her with several other people, and I offered her the position as operations manager. I think she's going to be a good asset for us. That now leaves her position open, so I'm asking permission to fill that position.
Okay, any comments, questions?
That was a good selection.
you.
I remember when I was the president of the TMMA, the Town Meeting Members Association, she would always help me book the conference rooms.
She
was always very pleasant.
She's very, very nice, yes.
And I don't think we've given the lecture to you as we've given to other staff people who come seeking positions. We expect you to make an extra special effort to ensure that the universe of applicants that you're looking at is diverse. In addition to the items listed in your form here, make sure that if there are any other opportunities to find diverse candidates to consider for this position, that you do that.
I will.
Okay. Question of approving the filling of the position in the building department for administrative head clerk, Mr. Franco.
Aye.
Ms. Heller.
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Thank you. Question approving the filling of the following position in the recreation department, a custodian, building custodian. Custodian/building custodian.
Good evening, Justin
Mr.
Casanova Davis, Assistant Town Administrator, here on behalf of the Recreation Department, ask for approval to fill the building custodian position.
Okay. And you know the pitch that we make.
I've heard it many times, I'm going to make sure to relay it to Lee as well.
Okay. Vote approval for filling the position in the Recreation Department for building custodian, Mr. Franco.
Aye.
Ms. Heller.
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Question of authorizing the filling of the following vacancy in the Library Department, Children's Librarian 1.
Good evening, everybody. I will keep this short and sweet. We are looking to backfill a Children's Librarian 1 position. Our incumbent, or the person who's previously in that position, is going to take the role of our dearly deceased colleague, Paula Shiraga, at the Children's Library Department in Coolidge Corner. So we're sad to see this librarian go over there and leave us at Brookline Village, but we're happy that someone has come to take over for Paula. So we will be posting this internally for 10 days before we go external to our usual host of websites that we get the word out to.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
It was good to see you at the Sustainability Summit.
You too. That was a great meeting.
And, I didn't know the librarian who was hit by the truck, but I was very impressed by the outpouring of love that I saw at Coolidge Corner Library at her at the event.
Yeah, and thank you for
So,
your remarks that day. We appreciate it.
It's very moving. So.
She was a wonderful person.
So, move approval of the filling of vacancy in the Library Department for Children's Librarian 1. All in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
Thank you.
So next, this is a special item on our agenda, the approval of the appointment of Natasha Tidwell, Natasha Tidwell, as the town's outside legal advisor. Let me start off by giving some background. Select Board member Franco and I are presenting to the Select Board our proposal that we engage a seasoned civil rights attorney to assist the Board in connection with some of the complex matters that have in the past and undoubtedly will in the future come before us related to race, gender, and other forms of discrimination. I mean, we should all recognize that Brookline is a large and complex town that has been formed by the history of discrimination that has always existed in America, but today is less tolerant than in the past. So how we address issues of discrimination is more complex than in the past and sometimes requires new ways of thinking. We are a town of progressive residents and progressive town government, including its police and fire departments, and I emphasize that. We are not perfect, but we are always trying to do the right thing. Sometimes in new and unique situations, it is not clear what the right thing is, especially to a voluntary select board with little knowledge of the complexities of discrimination law and practice. So we as a select board may make mistakes, but they're honest mistakes. We can fail to notice the nuances of an allegation that has merit and respond ineffectively. We can also fail to address even meritless or ambiguous allegations with the finesse that may be required. Because responding to any type of allegation may require having expertise in discrimination law and experience resolving complex allegations that may have merit or may have no merit or may be complex and ambiguous, and we don't have that type of experience. We are proposing to engage in what we're calling outside legal advisor to assist the Select Board through the civil rights and related minefields that may in the future or have in the past come before the Board, including but not limited to the 2010 incident of alleged hostile environment discrimination in the Brookline Fire Department. The advisor would be engaged to provide guidance and counsel to the Select Board on civil rights law and practice, the Select Board's decision-making, and on best practices to protect the town and to provide appropriate remedies for valid claims. Select Board member Ben Franco and I, with the assistance of Town Council, identified attorney Natasha Tidwell as a person to provide such counsel. Let me tell you something about Natasha. She's with the law firm Hogan Lovells and has an impressive and extensive background in civil rights and other relevant areas that are relevant to our concerns. She started as a police officer in the Cambridge Police Department and rose through the ranks to become the first female lieutenant in the department's history. She studied law while on the police force at New England School of Law, where she later joined the faculty. She began her legal career as a federal prosecutor in the Department of Justice's Public Integrity Section, and then returned to Boston to work in the U.S. Attorney's Office. She currently serves, among other things, as lead monitor in Ferguson, Missouri, overseeing implementation of reforms following the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division's pattern and practice investigation of excessive force, bias policing, and other unconstitutional practices by law enforcement. She was on the team that investigated alleged sexual assault and harassment by the spouse of the former Massachusetts State Senate President. She was appointed by 2 mayors to police oversight panels tasked with ensuring fairness and thoroughness in the internal affairs process. She's co-chair of the Boston Bar Association's Civil Rights and Civil Liberties section, and she was co-chair of the Suffolk County District Attorney Rachel Rollins' transition team. That's all well and good, but I want to know what my friends say. Okay. So I consulted with Wayne Blood, whose advice I respect and trust. Wayne was the Assistant Attorney General in the U.S. Justice Department, overseeing, among other divisions, the Civil Rights Division, and was also the U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts before that. Wayne has his finger on the pulse of the legal community like no one else. And he gives Natasha very, very high marks and says she would be an excellent choice for this assignment. That's all I need to know. Forget about all that other stuff that I read. Natasha Tidwell will provide the Select Board with honest and thoughtful counsel on the many civil rights issues that will come before the Board. So I'd like to introduce Natasha Tidwell and ask members of the Select Board if they have any questions regarding this assignment, or Ms. Tidwell, or questions of Mr. Franco or me. So.
Well, let me do a little bit of table setting, building
Okay.
on Bernard's comments. I'll play your sidekick here a little bit. So we've got a variety of subject matter experts in this town about innumerable things, large and small, including on this board. We've got a variety of attorneys, and all of us have had different career paths and experiences that have brought us here today. And I firmly believe that organizations, including municipal organizations, are at their best when a variety of perspectives are brought to the fore and discussed. And I think the retention, the hiring of Attorney Tidwell is a means of bringing additional perspectives into this board's conversation and the town's conversations. And I want to highlight three of those. I think an outside perspective, a fresh perspective, and the perspective of somebody that's been engaged in the types of conversations that we've been having in this community over the past few years before, and bring some expertise. So I think this is a really positive step. I think the chair really did an excellent job of highlighting Attorney Tidwell's credentials and her path to tonight. And I enthusiastically support the hiring of this outside counsel, the special counsel to the board and to the town.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, queries?
I think that Ms. Tidwell obviously has sterling qualifications. I think it's important for us to recognize that it's great to have an outside view of what we're doing, and I hope she's able to provide us with some guidance and some constructive criticism, as well as, telling us where we're going right. So, welcome. Thank you.
I'm very pleased about your police background, especially here in Massachusetts. The civil service stuff in Massachusetts is very complicated. It's unlike anything that I've been exposed to in other communities across the country. So I'm very delighted that you have that context to help us navigate through it.
Hello, how you doing?
Namaste.
Namaste.
Yoga mom.
You're paying attention. There was an article recently in WBUR, and they did something on the radio as well about whether or not Brookline is sort of turning a corner. I don't know that we're quite there yet. I think we've got a lot of work to do, and I think that enlisting you in helping us do that work is a really important part of where we could be going. And so from my perspective, I think your counsel will be really welcome, especially considering your stellar credentials in this area. And I for one, really hope that you, just like Select Board Member Heller said, really give us some constructive feedback. I think that is going to be the most important thing. And so sort of consider yourself being brought here to tell us what's what and what we need to do about it. I think that for me is going to be paramount, is to actually for us as this process goes on, and by the end of this process, is for us to really have a sense of the kind of changes we need to make culturally, the kind of changes we need to make structurally, and then as a matter of both policy and practice, what it is that we can, should, and must be doing going forward. So I look forward to hearing from you directly, but those are some of the things on my mind, and appreciate you being here and willing to work with us.
Thank you very much.
So, you have anything, like to add anything to that?
I
This
think
this is a.
I
this
have a
is
lot
the
of
first-
reading to do, because there's a lot of materials. I am someone who, as you said, grew up in municipal work and civil service work. I believe in it. And so a lot of that sort of belief and the mission of the police and fire departments specifically guides the work that I do in Ferguson and in Newark and in other places. I believe in the best of these institutions, but also know that it sometimes takes sort of an insider or someone who's been involved to sort of to give real feedback and to give it from a place that really appreciates the work and isn't someone looking to come in and Monday morning quarterback things, because it really comes from a genuine place for me. So I welcome this opportunity. I look forward to working with everyone, and hopefully, we'll, I'm never one to pull any punches or sort of to, so I will provide constructive criticism. May not always seem that way, but it certainly comes from a place that believes in the best of our municipal institutions and our civil servants. I just hope to help in any way that I can.
Great, thank you. So this is the first step in a process that will go on for a little while, and we'll be signing an engagement letter if we approve this evening, and then we'll be in touch with Attorney Tidwell and go from there. So I move approval of the engagement of Natasha Tidwell as outside legal counsel, legal advisor to the Select Board on Civil Rights and Related Matters, and approval of the engagement letter for this assignment. Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry you, or, yes.
I'll take it, Raul.
Thank you.
It's like, just give
So, where's the contract?
It's that time of year again.
Kate's got it.
Sign
Oh,
it
okay,
afterwards.
okay. No, I just wanted to. Okay, next. Water and sewer rates public hearing. This is a public hearing to discuss a proposed aggregate increase of 2.3% to the fiscal year 2020 water and sewer rates.
Good evening. For the record, Fred Russell, Water and Sewer Director for the town. Thank you for having me. I got a quick PowerPoint presentation I'd like to go through and then answer any questions if I could. So, really brief overview. In FY20, that is the total expenditures going forward for water and sewer. As you can see, roughly almost actually 3/4 of the budget is the MWRA payment for water and sewer. Essentially what their increase is, typically we reflect on our increases. Some of the things we're working on as far as water, sewer, and stormwater. Water, we're just finalizing a CIP program that's probably going to run 5 or 6 years. It was not as elaborate as our sewer CIP program, which is, we're looking at 16 years. And that's due to just the condition of the water system, as I expressed before when the commissioner's been here. A side note on the sewer CIP, where we had started a 16-year, we're basically starting year 3. If you recall, it was for the board as far as to sign a few contracts, and the way we're actually bidding it out now, we're looking at a pretty good cost savings. So that 16-year may, after we amend it, may be down to anywhere from 9 to 10 years. So that's a good thing. And then stormwater, it's one of those things where, again, all based on phosphorus loads and reduction of phosphorus loads moving forward to the Muddy River and the Charles River. I put this chart up all the time because the last few years our consumption costs, our consumption has been going down, which again affects revenue. So in a sense, not only are we tracking expenditures, but we're also tracking consumption, which again has a direct. We're hoping that based on the last 2 years, we've got some leveling off. So, how did we get here? Real quick, as the board remembers, or some board members remember, back in 2012, under the consultant Weston and Sampson, we came up with the current rate structure where we had tiered rates and also some fixed costs associated with recouping some of the administrative costs associated with the water and sewer billing. We had, since I've been here, we've had a number of water and sewer rates presentations, and there's been some outcry of the equity of the rates as they currently sit. So in 2016, I formed a working group or task force, and I'd be happy to say that 5 of the members of this task force are here tonight, which I commend greatly for coming and for participating. It's been a long few years. So when we first sat down, we looked for direction, and one of the things I did was to reach out to a past contact, previously from being the water and sewer director for the town of Brookline, was the utilities director for the city of Newton, and I was also the public works director for the city of Woburn. And I engaged Woodcock and Associates, more specifically Chris Woodcock, who was sort of the rates guru for this area and for the country, more or less nationally. When I reached out to Chris, he unfortunately told me he was retiring, and he highly recommended this Raftellus financial consultant. So I reached out to them and brought them on board to sort of guide us and to sort of do an overview of our existing rate structure to see if, again, if we needed to blow it up or if we needed to just massage it a little bit. So I'd be happy to say that it wasn't a total redo, but again, we did have to tweak it somewhat. So we set the goals forward here as revenue sufficiency as far as equity and an actual cost allocation associated with the distribution of the customers. Revenue stability, looking at the fixed cost to see if we could recoup adequate fixed costs. Improve equity between customer classes. I can't express how, or tell the board how there was always that outcry from non-single family or multiple family residents as far as not being able to take care of that tier or take advantage of that tiered rate, which we looked into. Again, promote conservation and obviously provide affordability. So with the current rate method, and I sort of put these in order of the top being the least impactful to the bottom, which was the most impactful as far as where we needed to really adjust the rates. Single-family low-income, low-volume customers, believe it or not, were, again, I hate to use the word subsidized, but the issue with them is that we need to provide a readiness to serve for those properties in the sense that at any moment, a family of 4, a family of 5, a family of 6 could move into that property. So what happens is that when you have a single homeowner or one person in that home, they don't use enough water to recoup the actual cost on the volumetric basis. So essentially, their fixed cost is nearly 80 to 90% of their bill, which is not a good thing. So we needed to adjust that. Right now, under the current, or previously under FY19, our base rate only recovered 10%. Ideally, you want to be in the anywhere from 15 to 20% recovery cost for administrative, so we were low there. And the big glaring issue that we found out was the irrigation rates that we were charging were well below what the national standards were. So again, revenue sufficiency, adjust the rates requirements so that we actually have a cost allocation for use, try to get the revenue stability, the base rates up to 20%. Again, look at the actual rate structure for non-single family residents, non-single family customer classes. Again, keep the block rate for conservation purposes, and then look into affordability for seniors. So these are the existing rates under the FY19 budget, if you recall. I just put those up, but a couple of slides you'll see. I'm actually putting together both sets of the old rates and the new rates. So what do we do? These are the key changes that we came up with. So the first thing is, if you recall, the tiered rates were cut off at 0 to 7 HCFs, and then anything from 7 above were at a second rate. We moved that up to 18, and how we did that was we looked at Brookline's trend as far as what the average household is, essentially 2.3 people in Brookline. If you apply the 65 gallons per day per person that DEP and EPA typically says is the standard, and when you actually calculate that out, it's actually 18 HCFs per quarter. That would be the minimum standard on the AWWA and DEP. We eliminated the tiers of multifamily, and we came up with a set rate for just multifamily, so that, again, they would take somewhat advantage of the tiered rates. We eliminated the tiers on sewer consumption, and then the base rate for the meters, we adjusted those based on flow capacity under AWWA standards. So again, these are the shortfalls from the original that we hung our hat on, the AWWA standards, which was basically the Bible for creating water and sewer rates. And as far as the elderly discount, what we did is right now it's a 20% reduction on the entire bill. However, as if you recall, I mentioned that some of the low users who take advantage of this, they don't really use a lot of water, so they weren't getting the benefit of it. So what we're proposing is to have a 50% reduction on the actual base cost, which is a very significant increase in the discount to the elderly. I'll take this minute to also say that we did attempt to expand the eligibility to seniors to include tax-deferred properties and to the tax work-off program. And we were hoping that we would bring this into this today. However, when we talked with town council, they felt that we need town meeting vote. So we will be pursuing that coming fall town meeting to sort of expand the eligibility for seniors. Those are the two sets of rates existing and proposed side by side to give you just an idea of the impact. Again, one of the bigger things that you see there, or the bigger changes, is that irrigation charge, which was, we were charging a $10 fixed fee, where now irrigation customers will pay the base rate for the meter charge that all homeowners pay. So what this achieves is we are essentially proposing a 2.3% aggregate increase over last year's rates. And I say that aggregate in the sense that past slides you saw our budget went up about 2.7%. When you essentially sign the new rates to the usage that we've had historically, it amounts to a revenue increase of 2.3%. That makes sense. Instead of going from 10% to 20% as for fixed costs, we figured we'd sort of tier it in, if you will, or work it in slightly. So we actually went with a 15% fixed recovery cost. Again, uniform rates for single-family customers. We kept the block rate for single-family homeowners to promote conservation. And as I spoke, we changed the elderly discount favorably for seniors. Here are some impacts on some usage classes and that sort of thing. You can see most of them are somewhat minor increases. Again, you see the low single families residential is going up at 12.1%, but we're hoping with that offset of the 50% discount for the fixed rate, that should come down to single digits, well under single digits. And again, the irrigation is where, again, the theory being using fresh, clean water to put on the ground is not ideal as far as, again, national water standards are considered. With that, again, I would like to really thank my working group task force members who are here tonight: Dick Banka, Tom Elotowski, Rennie Fry, Dave Lescollier, Linda Pelkey, and Tommy Vitolo, who was one of the original members, but now that he's got some promotion, he doesn't like hanging around with us anymore. So. And Dave Fox and Luke Eastman from Ref Telus. With that, I'll show you just a quick before and after picture of some of the sewer lines and some of the work we're doing on the sewer lines. So, with that, if you have any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Sure. Can you help us understand a little bit better, and especially for any folks that might be here or watching, the difference between the 50% elder discount that will happen now as a result of this proposal, and who is part of that group, and who would be included later if town meeting were to vote in favor of the forthcoming proposal?
That's a great question. So, right now under the senior eligibility, it's really income-based, age-based, and income-based. And unfortunately, I'll tell you that there's only 7 people that are eligible currently, under the current standards. By adopting and expanding it to the tax deferred and the tax work-off program, we hope to get, right now, we'd be up over 50. So it's a step in the right direction as far as eligibility for seniors. And again, this is a work in progress, and we'll again, look at this coming forward to see if there's any other way to sort of expand the eligibility as well.
So what we have right before us now, that applies to 7 people?
Correct.
Okay.
7 people are eligible that take advantage of it currently, correct.
Okay. Thanks.
So I've been the board member that's been harping on this for, gosh, 5 years, and I want to say thank you for working on this, committing to it. I think the proposal we've got in front of us now is heads and shoulders above where we were just a year ago. So thank you for your commitment. Thank you to the working group for doubling down and being part of a solution here. I think this is great. And I think there's a little bit more equity, and we'll see how it works out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Heller?
Could you go back to the slide?
I'll try.
I just want to understand better, that one.
Okay.
I want to understand better. It seems that the single-family residence is going to be the most, take the most significant increase. if
That's
you will.
correct. Mhm.
The low single-family. So what, does that mean that, what would you estimate consumption of a household of 4 people, a single family? Is it different? I mean, can you get any guide from this?
Yeah, so if you look at the middle column of consumption, okay, you see 11, 17, and 48. So right now, again, we're looking to make that cutoff 18. So essentially, the low single family and the medium single family would be low and be billed out at that first tier, the lower tier. And then if you look at the high single family user, and again, the low and medium and high equates to usage in the house. So a family of 4 could be anywhere from a medium single family to a high single family.
So that's just, you base it, the number will be based on their use?
Correct. Correct.
And in the irrigation area, so we're increasing the amount that we're charging, but people are trying to conserve water, so they have rain barrels and they have other things.
Right.
So that, if they do have those devices that save water and use it for a garden,
Absolutely.
that means that they're going to use less water, and therefore their bill is going to go up. No?
No.
Our revenues would go down.
Pardon?
Our revenues would go down, and there may be pressure on, bills across the board.
Yeah. I think what this does is it actually promotes those that irrigate to use a more efficient way to irrigate, if you will.
Okay.
Really low to begin with.
I gotta say, I'm seeing the same thing that Select Board Member Heller is seeing when I look at the low single family. That was one of the thoughts I had also, is for folks that are prioritizing this conservation of water, does that mean they're the ones that are, if they're in that low single family usage, they're the ones whose bills are gonna go up? No?
Well, I thought she was asking about irrigation, about using
Well, I was
rain
asking
barrels.
about both,
Right,
but
use
I-
rain barrels.
I mean, if people are doing what they, many of us think they should be doing, which is not only switching to renewables, but conserve what we've got,
Right.
it seems that it's not equitable, really, to force their rates up when other people who are using more are getting a better, if you look at the percentages,
Correct, right. But if you,
That's what
if
you
you,
see.
right, so if you remember my opening as far as the 3 shortfalls from our existing rate structure, now that's the key thing, is you got to realize that we looked at revamping these because it was not equitable. Okay, so that's the part that I think it's, and we had this discussion when we met as a group, is to really understand that the previous rates were not cost allocated as to the point where they should have been. So this that we're proposing now, even though it's an increase, is more cost allocated based on the readiness to serve and the cost of what it costs us to operate the system. And that's where there's a disconnect. That's where it's kind of difficult to explain, just to realize that the previous rates were not, the cost allocation was not justified or fair.
but the cost allocation, does that take into account those people who are trying to conserve as a matter of, helping the environment?
No, absolutely. I mean, that's why we have the tiered rates. So if they're using less water, they're going to get billed at the lesser tier. So that's where, by having the tiered rates, it promotes conservation.
Okay, I'm not sure I completely understand it.
Okay. I apologize for not explaining it correct, but...
Then I don't get why certain percentages are higher than others.
I think because there's been a history of subsidizing single-family water rates for
Exactly.
ever in Brookline.
Exactly.
Well, as a matter of public policy, I'm not so sure that it's a bad idea to subsidize, whether they're single-family, two-family, or five-family. It's not a bad idea to subsidize people who are using less. Because
But the fixed costs are different.
I understand that the costs come into this, but...
Well, again,
Could
maybe
you go
what...
back to the chart that shows the tiers and the different price, or the different costs per tier? 'Cause maybe
this
that'll
one?
explain. Yeah.
If you want to look at the 2 rates next to each other, would that help?
Well, I think just looking at the single-family tier for the 0 to 1,800 cubic feet of water usage, their rate per 100 cubic feet is 264 versus a higher usage family is going to be paying 659. So there is an incentive to reduce the water usage.
Exactly. Yes.
Any other questions? This is a public, I'm sorry. This is a public hearing, so if anyone from the public would like to ask a question or make a comment, come on up. I see Ms. Pelkey wants to say something.
Good evening. Linda Olson-Pelkey, member of the Water Rates Task Force. It's been interesting. I really got up because I wanted to thank Fred and the rest of the DPW for giving us a chance to participate in this. It's been really a positive working relationship, and then bringing in the consultant. We educated ourselves as much as we could, and then we shared our concerns, and he educated us more, and so now we all feel comfortable with this. And the reason I even got involved to begin with, you might remember me being here at the very first time when we unveiled the new tiered rates, and I was pretty enthralled with what the impacts were going to be on a multifamily building, because with the tiered rate, and you have a large building like mine with 50 units, you hit that second tier almost after day one of usage. And so it really didn't make sense to apply that same rate to a single-family and the multifamily. And so now we have this uniform rate that's for all multifamilies, all commercial, all, everything else. One thing I think Fred will probably want to comment on, and he hasn't yet, and it occurred to us, with the increase in the irrigation rates, the original proposal, they were going to go up 70%, and I screamed bloody murder. And, because we do irrigate our lovely courtyard, and there's not a whole lot we can do to save water, and I think we care about having a green brook line. So there was a trade-off there, and so we came up with an amount that we thought was a reasonable level of increase, to be fair. But it does apply to the municipal use of irrigation. And so we had to answer that question, how much, what is this going to do to the town budget? And so Fred can probably tell you something about that. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm so thrilled that we've made it to this point. One concern I do have about trying to give discounts is we haven't figured out how to do it for apartment and condo dwellers yet. So we need to figure that out. But anyway, thank you.
So yeah, just to elaborate on that, again, keeping in mind that the budgets for FY20 have already been set. Now we need to introduce new rates. And again, the impact on municipal buildings and municipal properties really was a focus as well. And when, if you remember, I said that ideally we'd like to recover 20% of the base costs, but when we looked at that proposal, the impact on the town accounts was tremendous. And Mr. Collector actually told me to clean my office out if we were going to go that route. So, so that's where we ended up with the 15%. And the increase in municipal accounts would be roughly around $45,000, which we thought, and again, distributed through all of the municipal budget, we thought that was more palatable and something that was we could handle. So,
Can I ask? Oh.
I just wanted to add one piece to that as well. We're not recommending an adjustment to the utility budgets at this time because we feel like our budget estimates are conservative enough that they should still hold steady with what we have assumed. So.
Fernandez.
So one more bite at the apple on the elderly discount. So when I first saw it, I said, yippee, that's great. And then the fine print says it applies to 7 families or 7 homes, I believe. Can you tell us about those 7 homes and why they end up, not specifically, but why they end up in this class and why others aren't? I just want to understand and want to make sure folks understand too.
Well, first of all, the eligibility of the low-income senior credit or tax is essentially, the eligibility is through the assessor's office, not through water and sewer. So basically, they apply for it for their property taxes. Once they get vetted out and they basically get those, I guess, eligible by the assessor's office. The assessor's office sends us those properties down there, and we automatically apply the water and sewer discount.
We're piggybacking on an existing elderly exemption in the town's property tax, and I think what we're suggesting is we'd like to expand that to other other classes of people, including, I think, might address
Other programs, really.
other programs,
People who are in
veterans.
other programs. But I also think, isn't it possible that there are people who would qualify, but they just have not applied?
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's an issue.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
I think it piggybacks on a larger issue that we've been talking about for now the past few years around people coming to the town and proactively saying, I need help with my property taxes. And there is a robust effort in the assessor's office. There's a moderators committee now, which I serve on. There's been, I think, 2 select board committees looking at this issue. We need to do a better job publicizing the availability of these opportunities. And I think hearings like this are one way. We get up and say, there's help available, but you've got to come and talk to us. And then there's a separate sort of tinkering with criteria, which Mr. Russell alluded to, but it's sort of a multi-pronged approach. So any ideas, I am open. Please call me, email me, let me know.
I as well.
Okay, any other comments? Mr. Benka.
Just very quickly, Dick Benka, I was a member of the task force and was actually involved as a select person in the 2012-2013 rate setting process. And I actually just pulled a worksheet from then to address Select Person Heller's question. The single-family user of a limited amount is, even under these rates, despite the increase, being subsidized to quite an extent because there's a large portion of the cost is attributable to having the pipes in the ground and the capacity to serve. And back in 2012, 2013, when we did the analysis, the base rate for the smallest meter would have been about $510 using costs from that time. I don't have the most recent, they're slightly higher. As opposed to that $510 base rate, the base rate is $240. It's $60 a quarter times 4 quarters under this. So the base rate for the smallest meters, and which are the smallest users, is something that does include a significant subsidy at this point. We have not gone all the way to full allocation of costs, because doing that would have resulted in a really much more dramatic increase for the very low users, for the water misers, as they're called. That being said, we did recognize that there were elderly and low-income individuals who fit into that category. And that's what led to the discussion that Mr. Russell had about expanding the eligibility for some discount of the rates beyond what it is and what we can do now. So that is what you will be seeing before town meeting, I hope.
Well, let me just follow up. In my thought process, I focused my climate action issues on renewables, but I'm also realizing that there are other areas that we can do better in terms of helping our planet.
Yeah.
And one of those is conservation. So, and we talk about composting and all these other things that are out there, which are important in a complete environmental package.
Right.
So I'm just, wondering what extent we are recognizing that conservation by individuals is an important contribution to what we're trying to get at overall.
Well, the effort to do that is built into the rates and the tiered rate structure. The first 1,800 cubic feet is at $2.64 per 100 cubic feet, and then after that it goes up to $6.59 per 100 cubic feet. So there's a very dramatic increase there. That 1,800 cubic feet is one that was, it's the standard in Massachusetts as the consumption of, I think, a 4-family home that is, pardon me? A 2.3 family home or unit.
A third per person.
2.3 person, yes, thank you. I apologize for misspeaking. So the break point is one that we think should encourage conservation, and the implications of going beyond that are somewhat significant.
Right. I'll add that accurately attributing costs to where, the infrastructure is and land use also goes into the equation of making sure that, we're prudently thinking about the environment and how our behavior and patterns impact the way that we live and the amount of water and energy that we consume.
Hello, my name is David Lescoyer, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 11. I have to echo what Linda's saying. This is really a lovely evening. I'm very excited to be here and hear Fred's presentation. I have a couple of comments. One, no matter what we do, it's not going to be perfect. What we're trying to achieve is a fair and equitable rates, just like we do with property taxes. And the assessors are looking for vertical and horizontal equity among all the properties in Brookline to fairly distribute the burden. Here, with our water and sewer rates, it's the same. It's not chump change. When you look at the amount of revenue collected from property taxes, that's $239 million. Here, it's $28 million. That's $1 for every $8 of property tax is going, on average, from households to the town to provide this service, which of course is essential for our life and livelihood. So here we are with our water and sewer. We're trying to improve the equity of it. And I think we've done that. We've taken a step. Now the group isn't going to disband. We know that there are continuing issues we need to address, among them to better cushion the impact of these costs on the elderly and low income. So we have other ideas. There are recommendations in the Bible for this, the American Water Works Association rate manual. We're working on that. We'll hopefully have the consultant to advise us on those things. And as you heard, we're sort of at a transition from where it was to where it needs to be, and we have to phase that in over time, going from 9%, 10% to 20%. We're now at 15%. So we need to, I think, take a little bit of time after making this change, see how it plays out, and continue to evaluate. And I think the group looks forward to continuing to work with Fred to achieve the goal that all of us want, which is fair and equitable water rates in Brookline. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the audience? If not, we'll close the hearing. Is the board comfortable voting on this tonight, or do you want to defer it?
We should vote, yeah.
Okay. So, vote approval of the proposed aggregate increase of 2.3%.
So I think there were some recommended votes in our packet.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can just reference them. We don't have to read them all. Just reference the document.
Okay. So, I move to approve the recommended water rates for water and sewer effective July 1st, 2019 in our packet for single-family residential customers and all other customers for water rates and sewer rates, and to approve the quarterly base change based on meter size according to the schedule in our materials, to approve the quarterly irrigation rate at $5.27 per 100 cubic feet effective July 1st, 2019, to approve the annual fire service charge at $20 per inch diameter squared of fire service pipe size effective July 1st, 2019, to adopt an elderly exemption in an amount equivalent to 50% of the water and sewer base charge for eligible ratepayers. The above votes are set under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40. All in favor? Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Okay. Next, a public hearing, grant of locations. The request of National Grid to the locations of mains as hereinafter described for the transmission and distribution of gas in and under, Thorndike Street in Brookline, Harvard Street, right, those two. too.
And just an editorial comment, for anybody that's just joining us for our public hearings, we're about 30 minutes behind schedule, I think. So,
Thank you.
Just
Thank
be-
you for
just-
apologizing for our being late.
just
but
being your
that's-
sidekick, you know?
So, who's here for the grant of locations?
I am here, Barbara Kelleher from, I'm the permit representative from National Grid, and we're asking your permission to put 150 feet in Thorndike Street of 4-inch gas main from the 36 on Harvard Street to the rear of 455 Harvard Street, which is a brand-new building. We'd like to put 4-inch gas main service into the rear of 455 Harvard Street.
Okay, any questions, comments from the board? No?
Yes. We had, and Mr. Barkus knows this, we've had several discussions with National Grid representatives about the necessity for your company to repair the large number of leaks. And so I would like to know from you how many leaks you have actually repaired in the last 6 months.
Mr. Farkas will try to answer
Good evening, John Bacchus, National Grid Community Customer Manager. Again, tonight we're here for a grant of location to install a 150-foot gas main to 455 Harvard Street. And the question was, how many gas leaks have we repaired?
In the town of Brookline, have you repaired in the last 6 months?
So, I don't have the actual number of repaired leaks, but I can tell you that, again, I apologize, I don't have the number of the exact leaks, but back in, I believe, February, I gave you a list of active leaks in the town. And that list back then was, and I don't have that list with me, I just have what we have today, up to date on leaks, and what we're doing in the process to repair all leaks. I don't have the actual numbers, and I wouldn't want to falsify any information. So, again, I was here to represent National Grid and just on the grant of location.
Can you provide those numbers to us sometime soon?
I could, absolutely, yeah. I could provide those for you tomorrow morning. I can send an email to the office. I can give you some numbers right now. We have right now some information of what National Grid is doing. We're doing a walking survey in the town of Brookline, and we started that in May. And since then, we've identified several leaks, different grades 3s, 2s, and 2As. And in the process of doing that, we're continuing with the leak survey, and we're going to continue that until all the leak-prone pipe has been monitored and surveyed in your town. So that's what we're working on right now as we speak. So every day you do have people out there surveying your gas pipe.
And in the area of Thorndike and Harvard, it says that you found no leaks, and that's
That's correct, yeah. So-
confirmed, yeah.
Yeah, and also,
Can I ask a question about that? You filled out a form and you said you investigated on May the 22nd. And what did that investigation consist in determining whether there were leaks on Thorndike Street? What did that investigation consist of?
So
Was it,
that's-
are you looking back at your maps?
we look back at our history that we have, and we also survey the area.
So you physically went out there and looked?
We have a technician that surveys the area now, yes. So that's part of the process. You came to me and asked me, more or less unofficially, John, when Eversource applies for a grant location for the town or any other utility, can you provide us some information on whether or not there's a leak in the area? So the first couple of ones I did off of our history, and now we've worked in to move this forward even better to make sure that we survey the area with a technician that classifies any leaks. So that is correct, yes. In May, we started that.
And you found no leaks on Thorndike Street? Is that correct?
In the area of the location for the grant of location for Eversource, correct.
And how wide is that area? Does it?
Off the top of my head, I cannot comment on that on the top of my head, but it's roughly the same distance basically that we're looking for to install a gas service.
So these are new pipes in the street?
Correct.
So you'd have to also look at old pipes in the area around it to determine whether there are gas leaks in those pipes, right?
So in the design that is forwarded over to us for the grant of location, we survey that area to identify if there's any leaks.
I guess my question is, if there's no pipe there now, of course there's not going to be any leaks.
So,
But
so you do have pipe there.
Okay.
You have, on Harvard Street, you have a 36-inch main, you have a 10-inch main, and then I believe going down Thorndike Street, there's a 6-inch, low-pressure 6-inch gas main.
Okay.
That pipe there, in that structure, and in that area is not leaking right now.
So I guess the purpose of these investigations are not just to determine whether there are leaks in the immediate area of the new piping, but to use this as an opportunity to do a survey of a broader area to determine whether there are leaks in that area that you're working on, but also around it. I mean, that's my understanding of the purpose of the investigation, to really begin to learn about leaks throughout town, but in each instance of a grant of location, to look at a wider area around that particular grant or location.
Yeah, during the leak survey, so again, I'm not somebody that classifies leaks and I don't do leak survey. We go out there and we do what was asked of us to do for the grant location. We also do, if we find any leaks, we have to continue on to a certain distance. And that certain distance could be anywhere from 50 feet to the next sewer manhole, to a catch basin, to a foundation. So it's not like it just stops at point A. It continues, and the survey continues, because you might have, anything from, a water box that they might check, and then there might not be anything to check for the next 50 feet, but they have to check it to make sure that they get a zero read. So it is kind of broader than what is just shown on the design.
So in about a year, a little more than a year ago, we had a condition on a grant of location requiring you to submit a plan for repairing all the gas leaks in town with a timetable and within a reasonable amount of time to the Director of Engineering, Mr. Peter Ditto, the priority to address the super emitters. I assume what we're talking about are the large volume leaks. As I recall, that plan was not specific. It had no real timetable. And I want to know, how many of those large volume leaks have you repaired since that time?
So any large volume leaks are always repaired immediately. The plan that was discussed approximately a little over a year ago, we talked about the gas utility companies went forward and they went to the DPU and they proposed a way to measure gas, large volume, medium volume, and small volume leaks, like as you're talking. That plan got denied. So in that time frame, we've been working again with the DPU to try to come up with a plan. And again, I'm here all the time, and I'd be more than willing to sit down with a group of yous in another meeting and talk about what plan would you like us to do? Can you give us some feedback? Can you give us some ideas? I work well with your DPW. I tried to, come up with action plans. I can't do it all. There's a lot of pipe in the ground. We do have a plan to have all leak-prone pipe replaced in this town in 18 years. So to be able to do that, we need a plan. We need to have permits. We need to move forward with main replacements. We have to keep going. I can't just keep coming in here and trying to fix just the leaks. We got to fix the infrastructure. And, you know, I'd be willing to sit down with you on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, and come up with an action plan. So
that's a great offer, and we accept.
We'll take you up on that.
you know, and I am.
So leave us your card, and we'll know how to reach you. We'll call you.
Everybody here knows how to reach John Bacchus.
Especially in the Washington Square area.
I want to make sure you didn't change your phone number.
No, I would never do that. I'm always open. I always try to reply to any emails. I'm a face here, and, you know, I'm not going anywhere right now, so we have to come up with some type of an action plan on how can this all be done. Because I shake my head every day, how are we going to get it done? There's just so much construction, there's so much being built out there. The industry is booming right now. Everybody is moving into towns and cities, and they want these high-rises, and they want these, you know, new buildings. And to be able to provide that service to them, we also have to be able to fix the infrastructure that's existing right now.
Well, that's part of my question. The next part. If you are increasing the amount of gas that is flowing through the pipes, aren't you also increasing the amount of leaks and the amount of gas that is being escaping from the system?
That's a question for a debate. Some people will say it's true, other people say it's not. I can't honestly give you my answer on that. You know, as a gas professional, you know, somebody that's worked in the industry for years, I would say no. But some people would say, you know, if you have a leak in a garden hose and you tape it up, another leak appears. Well, isn't that what we're doing when we go out there and fix one leak, and then we go out there and fix another leak?
That's why you have to fix them all?
But we can't just fix them all because they pop up constantly. And it's an old infrastructure. It's the second oldest infrastructure in the country. We want to fix it. We want to replace the old stuff with new stuff. And, you know, everybody's concerned, and you know, they have right to be concerned. So, again, you know, I would love to be able to have a team of us and be able to work together and do something like that. You know, I'm available to meet with you and work on this situation that some people would call a problem, so.
So I don't want to set up a committee, but why don't you, Mr. or Ms. Heller,
Mr.
you know,
Glickner.
I'll follow up with you, John.
follow up with that?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I have a question.
yes.
So the survey that you said was, or maybe the audit that's being done as
Yes.
to, you know, the townwide leakers, I think I heard that you're not going to repair until that audit is complete?
So no, we will work on repairs. We have the category 1, which is a grade 1, has to be replaced and fixed immediately. So whether it's a repair or replacement, it has to be done immediately. And, you know, we have some ongoing grade 1s that are being worked continuously right now in your town. So those are being worked on as we speak.
Who identifies that they're grade 1?
So we have a third-party contractor that is qualified to walk, and they walk with, you know, readers to make sure, and they check curbing, and they check manholes, and they check catch basins, they check foundations, they check driveways. They really are very thorough with what they check. So we have a third-party contractor that we've contracted to do that for us. Brookline is not the only town that they do it for us. They do it throughout, you know, all of our areas. But right now, we're working in Brookline. So we definitely work on the grade 1s immediately. Those are considered emergencies, and we have to work on them. And then the grade 2s, we're mandated to fix them within 6 months. So we have to get them off of our books if we have any grade 2s. And then we'll also elevate a couple of them to 2As. So a 2A might be something near a school area or a public building, or one that keeps coming back over and over again with a strong odor and a strong reading. And then we have the grade 3s, which we're not mandated to fix, but part of the plan last year that they were working on to try to get going was measuring them with the large volume, medium volume, and small volume. And that didn't go through. So the utility companies are working together, and I am not part of that, I just looked for information from it, and so that did not go through. So that's where we are now. So, but the grade 3s, we did work a couple of grade 3s early in the season. We were, grateful that we were permitted to also work some grade 2s. They gave us permits a little bit early this year to go out there and start working on some leaks. So we definitely will work the leaks. It's just a matter of sometimes we need the permit to be able to get out there, and the DPW has been very, very good to us, working with us and, giving us the permits to do this, and even with the new work that we needed. And, right now we got 3 large projects going on in your town, working on the reg stations to update our infrastructure on the reg stations, which monitors the pressure that comes into your town. And that's being monitored 24 hours, 7 days a week to make sure that we have, the newest technology, monitoring the pressure in the regulated stations. So we're working well with this town, and we want to keep that going. I don't want to keep this conversation going, but, I want to keep the relationship open, and I want to keep working together with you, so.
Okay, Mr. Fernandez, did you have a comment?
Do you have something else? Okay. Yeah, one was on the grades, actually. So you mentioned 6 months to address a grade 2. The 2A, you mentioned those are by like schools or public buildings. What's the timeline on those?
So internally, we do it within 3 months.
Okay.
So,
Right. And then the other question was around the 18-year plan to replace all leak-prone pipes. Are we replacing them with pipes that are some kind of new technology for pipes that are less likely to leak going
yeah,
forward?
They say it'll never leak, I'm sure that's what they said about cast iron
All right.
back in 1901. But yes, we believe that, it's the new pipe, it's a polyurethane pipe, the plastic pipe that you see. Sometimes we need larger diameters, and we're also doing a program where we do an inner seal, where we dig 2 pits at one end of the gas and another end of the gas main, and we send a robotic computer in there, and they seal every joint for us, and that's for our larger volume pipe, and we're proposing to do that. We were hoping to do it this year, but again, with all the work going on, it's just a matter of, there's several projects going on in this town, including, Mass DOT projects, and you got a lot going on in this town, and, we'd love to come in here and do it all, but I just don't think it would be really the correct way to do it.
So this is a public hearing, and if there are any comments or questions from the public, please come up. Oh, looks like we do have some comments.
Hi, my name is Dan Sokol. I'm a member of Mothers Out Front and a 30-year Brookline resident on Cypress Street. National Grid is currently working in our neighborhood. We hope to resolve a long-standing leak on Route 9 at Cypress Street. I spoke before the Select Board over a year ago. That was March 27th, 2018, when National Grid was petitioning for this work in our neighborhood. Mothers Out Front members spoke about the environmental threat to Brookline's street trees and to our warming atmosphere caused by National Grid's leaking gas pipes. The underground leaks of methane gas are killing our trees, hundreds of trees in Brookline alone, and the methane gas that's leaking into the atmosphere is a potent climate-changing greenhouse gas, and studies have shown that the leaked methane gas warms the planet 80 times more rapidly than actually burning that gas. We must fix these gas leaks immediately, prioritizing the super emitters as we also work towards a fossil fuel-free future. So at that hearing in March 2018, National Grid was granted permission to complete the work in our neighborhood, and Select Board member Heller already read those conditions that were attached to that permission, so I don't need to repeat them. I'd like to mention a few newsworthy events that happened after that March 2018 Select Board meeting. On June 25th, 2018, National Grid locked out their workers, essentially halting for 6 months all work to repair gas leaks in Brookline other than emergency repairs. And this action has likely contributed to a backlog of repair and assessment work. Then on September 13th, 2018, you know that explosions caused by overpressurized gas lines in the Merrimack Valley caused fires, damage to 40 homes, cost in excess of $1 billion, and one young man was tragically killed. While this event was outside of National Grid's geographic area, it heightened public awareness of the safety issues with our gas pipe infrastructure. Then October 8th, 2018, just a few weeks after the Merrimack Valley incident, National Grid inadvertently overpressurized gas pipes in Woburn during maintenance work, and this raised concerns across the state among residents, public safety officials, and the State Department of Public Utilities about another potential Merrimack Valley incident. And then May 26, 2019, just a few weeks ago, 12 manhole explosions on Hammond Street, closed down Hammond Street and Brookline, in an area that we know has documented gas leaks. So this is an urgent matter. The gas leaks at Brookline need to be repaired immediately. They're damaging our trees, ruining the climate, and compromising our safety. We must see this map of National Grid gas leaks and the volume assessment and a schedule for when they're going to be repairing these leaks. The town needs to decide on actions to take to make sure that National Grid complies with these agreed upon conditions. So I ask the Select Board to please enforce these important permit conditions and require National Grid to fulfill their environmental and safety obligations to Brookline ratepayers. I thank you.
Mr. Barkis, did you want to say something in response to that?
I am aware of the Hammond Street questioning on the manholes and the 12 explosions that occurred on the 26th during Memorial Day weekend. We sent a technician out there as soon as the explosion happened. They worked with the fire department to make sure that we didn't have any gas readings in the area. No gas readings came back. There was some question on residual gas, which could have been a numerous amount of things, you know, between the explosion on the electric lines, in the manholes. So at this time, you know, that explosion was not caused due to a natural gas leak. We went out there the following day, worked with Brookline Fire, surveyed the area, found no gas leaks. We then decided to do another follow-up, and we're continuing follow-ups out there. We found a small gas leak in the area of Pine Street. We repaired the leak, and now we don't have any gas leaks that have come up in the survey. They'll be surveying that again tonight, somewhere around after the 9 o'clock hour. And then, you know, we hope that there won't be any gas leaks out there. And then they'll also be going back out there for the next 7 days. So we need 7 days of zero readings in that area where those manhole explosions were.
Thank you.
So,
But, Mr. Barkis, isn't this an indication of the dangers we face? Because those 12 electrical explosions could have happened anywhere, and they could have happened in a neighborhood where there are gas leaks.
correct. And that's absolutely
And that's
correct.
one of the reasons why we keep pushing you
Yeah.
to repair the leaks. And there feels like there's just delay and delay and delay, and you're going to do it in a reasonable time, but you're never specific.
I'm not,
And
yeah.
I'm getting frustrated, I have to say. And I
I'm
know
not
that.
downplaying. I'm not downplaying. I listen to the news and I listen to the papers, and you know, sometimes we speak and we're not too sure of what the cause actually was, and you know, that cause, you know, I have to defend my company. That cause does not indicate that it was due to a gas leak. And correct, I'm not downplaying. If there was a gas leak in that area, could it have been a lot worse? Absolutely. Could have been tragic. So, again,
And what's to say it won't
Yeah.
happen in someplace else in Brookline?
exactly. So all
Where there are leaks,
and
and where your company is responsible, and you
and it
should have
has
been
to-
repairing them all this
Right.
time.
So that's why all underground infrastructure has to be monitored and has to be repaired and updated.
I wasn't implying that the gas leaks were caused, or that the explosions were caused by the gas, because I wasn't able to find the internet, but just the idea that even if it was electrical explosion, that it was happening in an area with gas leaks is very scary.
Okay, point taken. Next speaker is Cunningham.
Hi, my name is Lisa Cunningham. I'm a member of Mothers Out Front of of Climate Action Brookline, of the Green Caucus, and a lifelong resident of Brookline. I wanted to talk a little bit about accountability, and I'm going to quote from a couple of articles, one from the Conservation Law Foundation and one from a Wicked Local article. Brookline actually has one of the highest rates of gas leaks in the state, in a state that has one of the oldest infrastructures in the country. In 2015, we were number 3 in the state. That might have changed slightly in the past few years. Independent researchers typically find 1.5 to 3 times the amount of leaks that the utilities report. When the highly combustible gas leaks from aging pipes, as we have all seen, it creates a ticking time bomb that threatens life and limb. Methane, the main component of natural gas, is a powerful greenhouse gas, 34 times more potent than carbon dioxide, that contributes to climate change. Leaking pipelines and other causes are estimated to release between 8 and 12 to 12 billion cubic feet of methane every year in Massachusetts alone. To add insult to injury, companies also charge their customers for the lost gas, meaning that Massachusetts businesses and residents are paying tens of millions of dollars every year for gas they never receive. According to a 2013 study by the Office of Senator Edward Markey of Massachusetts, the state's gas customers paid between $640 million and $1.5 billion between 2000 and 2011 for gas that never reached their homes and businesses. Let's see. I just want to say that the gas leaks on Hammond Street have been well documented. Reading from an article, Bob Ackley of Gas Safety USA, which consults with cities including Brookline about gas leaks, says, you go down Hammond Street 30 to 40 years ago, it was lined with monster oaks. It's just been decimated. Human safety is a risk, explosions aside. There's a regional air quality issue that comes from these leaks. Methane, ethane, and propane hydrocarbons are precursors to ground level ozone, and that's bad for any biological organism, and it is a major contribution to the degradation of air quality. So I guess what I would like to say is, first of all, thank the Select Board for their questioning of National Grid, but I'd like to take it a little bit further and say that I think we need to have some sort of quid pro quo for actually granting a new gas line for this new 40B. So we need to have a timetable in place where National Grid is going to fix these, fix the leaks, and a more aggressive timetable. It sounds like right now they're on a 10-year timetable. We need to have a more aggressive timetable. We need to have these leaks identified, and we need to have a guarantee that these leaks are going to be fixed. As Diane mentioned, there was an agreement in the project that she was talking about, but then nothing actually ever happened. So we need some accountability in place, and I'd like to ask the Select Board that they work out an agreement with National Grid where we have some firm accountability in place.
Well, we have
Thank you.
We have a mechanism for doing that, Ms. Heller's, not committee, but task force or whatever.
Well, yeah, the problem is that, in my mind, a year ago, we imposed a condition on National Grid, and essentially it's been ignored, as far as I can tell. And we asked for a timetable, and we got, well, we'll do it in a reasonable time. Well, that's not a timetable. That's just a guess of when, and reasonable can be different in every person's mind. So to me, a timetable is very specific. I will fix the leaks by July 1st, or I will fix it by September 1st. Something that is very specific and gives us some confidence that you're actually going to do the work. And so I'm very disappointed in National Grid's performance here, and I think we have to be much more stringent about our conditions on these grants of location, because we're allowing them to give us new service, but they're not maintaining and they're not repairing the service that we already have. And so does it make sense for them to do new stuff? That's going to just add to their burden of repair and maintenance, which they're clearly not capable or not willing to fulfill. So I think we need.
Mr. Vargas?
So, last year when we were here, there was a plan that was in place, and again, it was not approved, to actually pinpoint the volume of the leaks. So that there is being addressed with all gas utilities in the state. That is something that, again, all gas utilities in the state are looking at. It's not just the town of Brookline that's looking at it, it's all of them. I can give you the timeline on any grade 1s, 2s, 2As. I can tell you that those will be fixed within 3 months to 6 months. Right now, I understand the concern with the grade 3 leaks. We're not mandated to fix them, and I'm not trying to downplay that we're not mandated to, but we are working on grade 3 leaks. So there is.
But you can't tell me how many of you repaired in the last 6 months.
No, again, and I wasn't prepared to have that answer for you today. Joe, but I can have that answer for you tomorrow morning. And again, I was not prepared to have that. I was not prepared for that question tonight. And that's my fault, and I apologize for that. But I also was not here to come here and talk about the gas problems that we have in this town. And again, I'm willing to work with you on that. And I will sit down with you and we will go through the numbers and we will go through addresses. We could go through situations of, you know, what's your concern? What's the location that you want to prioritize? I can work with you on that stuff, but I can't just commit to you and tell you that I'm going to come in here and fix every leak in a year. I'm going to fix every leak in 3 years. I can't do that to you because I wouldn't be being truthful to you. And I'm sorry, but I can't do that to you. So, but I can commit to you the grade 2s, the 2As, and the grade 1s.
Well, but is it fair to say that some of the grade 3s are actually large volume leaks?
I can't, I don't know, because they come and go with different weather conditions. Sometimes you have a grade 3 right now, and you could come back in 15 minutes. You could have a crew show up, and that grade 3 is gone. And then a week later, that grade 3 shows back up again. So it's very difficult to pinpoint that. We'd have to dig up, you know, the whole street, you know, maybe even a 100-foot stretch. And that's why the plan of replacing that pipe with new infrastructure is the way to do it.
So you're going to tomorrow send us a chart or a spreadsheet showing the leaks that have been repaired since the agreement, as well as timetable for future leaks.
I can only give you the timetable for the 2s and the 2As.
Right, but also repairs that have already been made.
Correct. I can give you the ones that have been made, yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just briefly ask a question before you go? Yeah, sorry. I'll just say, I think that Select Board Member Heller's question was a reasonable question and also predictable, I would think, that we might want to know the status of leak repairs before approving putting in new pipe. I think it's a reasonable, would you agree?
I'm definitely not disagreeing.
Yeah, okay.
And again, shame on me, and I deeply apologize for that.
Yeah, but I, for one, and I think maybe two of us at the very least, probably more, you know, can you commit to in the future when coming before us, or if you or a representative of a company comes before us for the next request, to have that information at the ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Daria Mark. I am a Brookline resident and a mother of 2 children, 11 and 8. I'm also a member of Mothers Out Front, and I'm going to start my comments with a question of why are we in 2019 approving a gas pipeline in the ground? Right? I think that's a really fair question because we are a town that really prides ourselves on having a climate action plan and taking climate change really seriously, about being very worried about what is happening in our climate and what is happening with our children. And adding more gas infrastructure creates the wrong path forward. Making new buildings is the best, easiest time when we can make the switch from gas to electric. Retrofitting old homes, existing homes, is a lot harder than building new buildings that run on electric. So, in case you're thinking like, what? Big electric buildings. I was going to give you two examples, but actually I have another one that I just noticed. One is my parents live in a 35-story building that was built at a time when energy was, oil and gas were not abundant and were not cheap, and the whole building's electric. Everybody has an electric stove. Everybody has electric heaters and coolers, heating and cooling systems. And then another example is right here in Brookline, where a friend has a house that is all electric because when the developer was developing the property, there was no gas line to that structure. So they put in heat pumps, and they put in an induction stove, and they put in an electric water boiler. This is possible. It is done. In other places, it is not, the gas solution is not the only way we can go. And we know we have to go electric. We already know we have to electrify our heating and our cooking and our water heating. And we have to do it in less than 10 years. So if this building goes in with the gas systems, within a very, very short time, a much less time than these systems are meant to run, the owner is going to have to rip them out and replace them with electric anyway. And that will be certainly a disruption to all the rental units and the renters who are in that, but it will be a special disruption to the affordable housing units that may not be able to find another place as easily as others can for the 6 months, 3 months, a year that it takes to rip everything out and put in an electric system. And my third example was I just noticed you have a heat pump right here.
Mhm.
So that's heating and cooling that's done through electricity, unless I'm very much mistaken about
We
that
have
you-
in a number of rooms in Town Hall.
So-
Thanks to Charlie, where's Charlie Simmons, our Director of Facilities?
Right? So we have the solutions. They're out there. We need a nudge and an incentive to get those solutions in place. I want to end my comments with a really heartwarming story. On May 24th, I don't know if you remember that Friday, it was the climate strike where children all over the world left their classrooms and walked out to protest the inaction of us, the adults. And I don't know if you know that 90 students out of the Coolidge Corner School, which is just a few blocks away from this building, walked out at 1:20, 20 minutes earlier than they were supposed to end school. And they shouted at the top of their lungs, "There is no planet B. System change, not climate change. We want the Green New Deal now." I interviewed 5 of the girls who organized the rally, and it was heartwarming to hear them say, what is the value of having a great economy if we don't have a planet to live on? They are watching what we as adults are doing. They are watching our steps and our inaction. And yes, you're right, they cannot vote yet, but they will judge us for the decisions that we make one way or another. It is these small decisions. Do we allow pipe to go underground in a decision we as a town can make, and we can say no, because we already know now that we can no longer allow investment in more fossil fuel infrastructure, into methane gas. So I urge you to deny this request for placement, because we're out of time, and it is these small actions, these really brave, difficult to make, but small actions that add up. And maybe it's Brookline that goes first and says, we are no longer allowing gas pipes under our streets. There will be no more new fossil fuel infrastructure, because we are holding ourselves responsible to our children for what we do every single day. And I sincerely hope that once we do that, there will be other towns in Massachusetts that will follow us, and then other towns across the country that will follow us, and that we will be the leader that we see ourselves as being. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kleckner, do we have authority to do that?
I doubt it. I don't, I'm not the attorney, so if the board needs a legal opinion, I would encourage you to ask for one. But, there is, this grant of location process is spelled out in the general laws of Massachusetts, and, I think we would need a legal opinion. I don't believe we have that authority.
Thank you. Yeah, Ms. Pelkey again?
Yeah, hi. Linda Olson-Pelkey, a town meeting member, Precinct 2, and I'm here at this podium tonight because I am a member of the Select Board's Climate Action Committee, and we have been concerned and working on this gas leak issue all of those years, and Selectman Heller has been a fierce advocate, and I appreciate that greatly. And if we cannot deny this hookup, that was a hard act to follow. That was really powerful, what she had to say. And if we cannot deny, which I would support if we did make that decision, then I think we do need to recognize that this granting of a location is the leverage that we have to get the action that we want. And it feels late in the process now to make a requirement on National Grid in order to get this grant, but I would hope that the Select Board would consider saying that the next one, we want to see the number of leaks that have been fixed and the action plan that is acceptable to us in this town going forward. And I certainly hope that you all take up the gentleman from National Grid on his offer to work with him, and I'd even volunteer to be on that task force if you need me. But we need to get serious about that, and you need to use your authority here. So anyway, I think everything else that everyone said I agree with, so thank you.
Hello, Mr. President.
Good evening. Jennifer DePazzo Gilbert. I'm actually counsel for the developer that's building this project, and the project is 70% complete. It's a beautiful building. My clients have spent over six figures improving all of the infrastructure. They were before you and got permission to run new electrical wires. There was a major problem on Thorndike Street with power outages. They have contributed to solving that. We believe that this new line will improve the gas lines coming in. They will be new and more efficient. They do have electric stoves. And the wonderful good news about this is there will be 4 affordable units. The building is expected to be open in August. They had an informational session for those who qualified for the affordable unit lottery. The lottery is now closed, and many of the families that applied, their leases end on August 31st. So any delay would impact those families that are desperately seeking those 4 units. With respect to the question on your legal authority to deny, I agree with all of the comments, and who can disagree with climate change and the things that are going on environmentally? But with respect to your authority today, you cannot deny a grant of location on the basis of climate change and gas leaks in other areas. And I would just like to submit, if I could, if you're going to get an opinion for a later date from town council, and perhaps you've already been apprised of these cases that are right on point. The city of Boston and also Newton have attempted to place conditions on specific grants of locations. It's gone all the way through the courts, and recently, last year in 2018, the city of Boston's ordinance was pretty much 90% struck down by the courts because they said that the DPU is the one that needs to regulate the gas leaks. And the only small remaining piece of the ordinance was that the reports that are submitted on an annual basis to the DPU could be submitted on a more frequent basis with respect to leaks and where they were in the schedule. So I'd like to just submit a copy of this for the record, just so you can share it with each other or with town council if you don't know about it already. And it refers to some Supreme Court cases as well. But the good news is that this is a new, beautiful building, and we're excited for it to open, and excited to open up those 4 units to qualified affordable units for families in need.
Okay. And a delay would impact it?
It could
how?
impact it because many of the people that applied for those units, their leases end August 31st. We hope to be open and have all those units occupied by then. The project has been going extremely well, and so we're hoping that there's no further delay. And I would just echo Mr. Barkas and all the other speakers that you take him up on that opportunity to pin National Grid down to a tight schedule and work with your town engineer who's sitting in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. One more comment? Oh.
I'm here for the comment.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Okay. Seeing no more comments, I close this hearing. And I take it there's some desire to delay this?
Well, I think we certainly should delay the grant of location until we get the information from Mr. Barkas that he's promised us, and and we have an opportunity to analyze it and to know where we're going in terms of these grants in the future. I think that, what we've done so far hasn't worked, which is that we put a condition on a grant of location over a year ago, and nothing's happened. So what we need to do is something a little more aggressive. And I would propose that we delay this and continue the hearing for another week or two until we can get the information that we seek.
I guess I'm not really in favor of not holding them hostage, but delaying this building because of issues that really are kind of ancillary to the issue of providing this service to the building. I mean, we've gotten a commitment from Mr. Barkas that we would get reports of gas leaks that have been fixed and scheduled for future leaks in terms of 1, 2, 2A, and 1, 2, and 2A leaks. I'm not sure that I'm not willing to hold up this building, until we get something more than what we're going to get tomorrow, and getting a commitment. I'm not sure what that even means. So, what do other people think?
Well, I was this is, I was with Select Board Member Heller on this. The main concern I do have, though, is this idea of folks not being able to move into some place that they were planning to after. And I'm a little concerned about us delaying people whose leases will be up that'll need to move into this particular building. I hope that that the seriousness of this has been made clear, and that the need to continue as these requests come before us, the need to continue to keep us, and not just us, but the public updated on how these leaks are being addressed. And certainly, I've got a couple questions down that I don't need to ask right now, but ones that I do want to find out about. One, understanding more what the impact of a no vote would mean. We've heard a little bit of it today, but it looks like we need a little bit more advice from council. And the other is what would be the impact if we decided to require that all new buildings be fossil fuel free. And I'd like to really start to understand and better think about what kind of policy we could put in place where proposals like this wouldn't even end up coming before us, because we wouldn't be building any new gas infrastructure in town.
Any other comments? Okay, so Ms. Heller has on the table a motion to delay for a couple weeks. All in favor, Mr. Franco?
No.
Ms. Heller?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
No.
Mr. Fernandez?
No.
And chair votes no. Second, moving to approve the request to National Grid to the locations of mains as described in the materials. All in favor?
Well, so let's condition that vote on the fact that we want this meeting to take place, that there's going to be some coordination between Select Person Heller and the town to sit down and start to develop a plan for.
You mean sit down with National Grid, not
Right.
just ourselves?
Correct.
Okay, so what would that mean? A meeting within X number of days, or?
Well, so maybe a condition isn't the right way to do it, but let me just attach some, comments that I'm voting for this with the expectation that there's going to be.
Well, I believe it should be a condition.
Oh, what's the condition?
Go ahead.
What?
I mean, you said your initial
I mean, I'm a little.
So I don't think it actually can, practically, I don't think it can be a condition. They think through this.
Yeah.
Or legally, maybe.
How do you,
Oh, they can sit down with us within 10 days and give us a timeline, an exact location for every single leak in the town, and a timeline for fixing them.
Okay, but we've gotten that commitment to come in tomorrow, and I'm only willing to, and for me, condition it on receiving tomorrow that report that was promised by Mr. Farkas. I mean, to talk about a meeting, I think is just, I mean, that is a delay that's going to create the problems that we're talking about.
I also don't want to delay this as well. And tomorrow I did commit to being able to provide you a schedule on our 2As and our grade 2s and our grade 1s. And I would also be able to provide you tomorrow morning the leaks that we have fixed from the beginning of the year to date in the town of Brookline. So I can email that to you tomorrow morning. And I could hand deliver it to you if you prefer. So,
I think emailing it to Mr. Kleckner.
so
And
that's
you'll
what
distribute it to
I
the
can
rest
commit
of
to
us.
that, and then we can also discuss later on at a later date, whenever you'd like to meet.
Okay. So I move that we approve the grant of location, subject to Mr. Kleckner receiving the report of schedule of leaks, of grade 1, 2, and 2A leaks, and a report on leaks fixed in Brookline. Why is it from the beginning of the year? I thought it should be from the beginning of the original report.
Select Person Keller asked for the last 6 months, so.
Well, the problem is that National Grid, as you know, had a lockout, which began very soon after we made that condition.
Okay.
And it lasted until November?
Yeah, it was a 7-month lockout.
So
what I was asking was for the past 6 months, because that was the end of the lockout.
And that's perfectly fine, so
Okay.
I'm going back.
I got it. Yeah. So since November, I think that's a little more than 6 months, so.
Yeah, it was January when it ended, so
Okay.
that's, I went back, I was going back from the beginning of the year. So.
Okay.
Again, the grade 1s, the grade 2s, and the 2As, and, I can give you as much depth that I possibly can. I know all leaks are not on schedule right now, but I can provide you the timeline that those will be fixed. And then we can start filtering them out and working together on which ones maybe the town would prioritize and which ones they'd like us to go after first.
Okay. So I move that we approve the grant of locations, subject to or conditional on receipt by Mr. Kleckner tomorrow of the report that Mr. Park has just mentioned. Mr. Franco.
Could I just ask a question
Sure.
first? Does that include the large volume leaks?
That's number 1, right?
So
Grade
the
No,
lot-
1.
that's not the,
We cannot categorize large volume leaks, as I indicated earlier. Large volume, medium volume, and small volume. There's no measurement for that. There's no measurement for that, so we cannot provide that information. That was denied by the DPU. I cannot measure that. We can only go off of our grading system that we have in place.
And grade 1 would be,
An emergency
Okay.
leak that has to be repaired immediately.
okay.
Grade 2s are scheduled to be replaced in 6 months, and 2As National Grid themselves has categorized them and put a 3-month timetable on those.
And is there some comparison between grade A and large volume leaks?
Not at this point, no. There's no measurable way. You know, there are people out there that are trying to work on that, you know, whether it be, you know, scientists at universities and government officials. There are people that are trying to find a way to actually measure that, but it has not been accepted to be done. So I can only give you our grading category of 1s, 2s, and 2As.
And your grading category includes significant leaks? I mean, I'm trying to see what is the connection between large volume leaks and your grading category.
So a large volume leak was indicated as how much gas is in the atmosphere. So if we were standing here, and the way it was explained to me is if we were standing in this space here, how much gas is in this area?
Okay.
And depending on the levels that they measure in the atmosphere, that would be considered a large, medium, or small. But that has not been, you know, identified as properly measuring these leaks. So.
Okay, so you can't use that way of classifying
Right,
leaks.
so we
you have your own
classify
way.
ours through multiple difference, and this is stuff that we can work on together. I can bring you in how they classify them, but it takes into consideration confined spaces, grass field areas, paved areas. You have a brick building to a brick building, and it's nothing but paving, and if you have a gas reading in that area, it would be considered a class, you know, 1, 2, or 2A. So it has all different types of measurements from doors, inside. There's multiple different ways to measure the way we classify the leaks, and that's across the board with a DPU. So I can give you, again, the grade 1s, 2As, and 2s. What our time frame is to fix them, and then we can work together on prioritizing the leaks and going after as many as we possibly can.
Right, okay. So I move approval conditioned on receiving the schedule that Mr. Barkus indicated or mentioned. Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
I'm going to vote no because, not that I don't want the information, but I'm really concerned about the message that we're sending to the gas company. And I think we ought to send a message that we really want this information, and we asked for it before and we didn't get it. So I'm not going to hold my breath here. I'm going to wait and see if we can get it. I'm going to vote no in the meantime.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
I vote aye too. Sorry.
Mr. Green.
Mr. Green. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One teeny detail. There's an organization
Real
called
quick.
HEAT that has worked in conjunction with National Grid to determine where the large volume emissions are coming from. They haven't yet been able to put that into action, but there's a method for finding them.
Okay.
know,
Why don't
thank
you
you.
send that to us or provide that to us?
we have
Thanks.
We
Okay.
have it.
Okay,
Board members, thank you again for your time.
thank you.
Yes.
So, transfer of wine and malt liquor license, new alternative manager, or alternate manager, common victular, outdoor seating, and new entertainment. This is a public hearing again, Dorado Tacos, 1 LLC, doing business as Dorado Tacos and Simitas, to Soup Shack Company, Inc., doing business as Soup Shack at 401 Harvard Street, Brookline. And hours Monday through Saturday, 11:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., Sunday, 12 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. So we have question of approving the application for alternate manager, approving the application for a new common victular license, question of approving the application for outdoor seating for 10 seats, and question of approving the application for a new entertainment license, and for radio, tape, music, and television, 7 days a week from 11:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. Yes.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Mei Hui Hu. I represent Soup Shack Company, Inc.
This is a concept that has met quite a bit of success. Since 2008, the brothers, the first two shareholders, Vitaya and Enotai, they have started a similar concept. The first store, the first restaurant is in Mass Ave in Boston. It's also called Soup Shack. Would you want to come up? I just want to give you a summary how their experience come about. And there's another second restaurant in Jamaica Plain. It's also serving similar menu of food items. This is going to be their third restaurant in Brookline, and I'm very confident that the brother pairs will be able to bring the same know-how and the experience to serve the community and bring excellent food. Do you want to talk about this? What is the name of the restaurant in Boston? Faux Basil is the first restaurant. And the one in Jamaica Plain is also? Soup Shack is the second restaurant.
The third one that I can open and apply is Soup Shack too.
Yes, Soup Shack as well.
And my brother successful about the business and we want to open more branch in this one.
The biggest shareholder is Vitaya, who's standing next to me, his brother, and he basically is mainly spending most of his time in the restaurant in Boston. And now there's another store open up in Brookline, and Vitaya is going to be the main manager there. The third shareholder, Watson, he is the chef, so he just has a nominal share, 10%. But all three of them will work together. They have worked together in the past, so I'm very confident that it should be, they should be able to hit the ground running.
So I think I should bring this up now. Our fire department's not willing to grant approval for the license because of your hood ventilation system. Is that, where are you in correcting that problem? Because that's a fairly significant issue.
I apologize, I actually have not heard any concern from the fire department up to this point. It could be that the current operator has not met certain kind
They haven't cleaned and serviced.
inspection.
They haven't cleaned and serviced the
There you go,
the system,
okay.
and that would be a condition of any approval.
Absolutely. Everything has to be done in pre-opening. We will have pre-opening inspection from the fire department as well. But I appreciate that this is brought up now so that before we change hands and take possession, we can definitely make sure that the current operator correct that or, catch up with whatever maintenance they're lacking behind.
So we will approve the license subject to that. This is a public hearing. Any questions from the board? This is a public hearing. Any members of the public out there interested in speaking?
Well, I do have a question.
Oh, Ms. Hamilton.
So let me get this straight. No more tacos? Just soup?
Yeah, we more noodle soup from Japanese soup, ramen soup, Vietnamese soup, and Thai noodle soup.
Okay.
Seeing no questions from the audience, any other questions from the board? No?
Well, so I note that this is an application for a liquor license as well, for a wine and malt beverage license. So can you just tell me a little bit about a conversation with Lieutenant Raskin and what you may have learned in that conversation about Brookline's regulations in the service of alcohol?
Okay, so you have met with Lieutenant Raskin. You want to come up here?
This is my alternate manager.
Hi, my name is Pramuk. I'm alternate manager there. We both have certificate from TIPS, online and in class. We will make sure to follow the regulation of serving beer wine license.
And last week we met the lieutenant of police, and they already teach me about the regulation or that they teach me.
So are you going to card everybody who comes and tries to buy beer and wine? What's your policy around carding people?
We will make sure that everyone who is going to buy have to be at least 21 years old. And we make sure everything runs smoothly.
And you're going to ask everybody to see everybody's
We will check
license?
we will check
So
on
even mine, even mine. You're going to ask to see my license?
We will check on you. Everyone.
Everyone look like under 40. I'm gonna ask everyone to see, check the ID.
Well, I would prefer that you ask me, because then I know you're asking everyone. It's fair.
And if there's an incident, there's a book that you
Yes.
need to keep.
Yeah, we will keep doing that.
So we send underage people in to try and buy alcohol from restaurants. So consider yourself warned that we will try and we'll test you to see how good you are about only serving people over 21.
We will check on the ID to make sure with that.
Okay.
So we're also approving entertainment license. Are there, let's see, well, 11:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. I guess there are no issues there in terms of local residences.
And it's an
Okay.
existing restaurant.
Yeah, okay. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, let's go through the approvals. Question of approving the application for the transfer of a wine and malt beverages license from Dorado Tacos to Soup Shack at 401 Harvard Street. All in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Did I say everything right?
Do you want to do it as an omnibus vote? or-
Yeah, where do you?
Okay, we
you
can
gotta
do it
put
as
that-
omnibus.
Don't forget the condition.
Right, okay. Okay, so let's, as an omnibus vote, number one, question of approving the application for the transfer of a wine and malt beverages license. Number two, question of approving the application for alternate manager. Pramuk Suvaram Pradip?
Correct.
Okay. Question of approving the application for a new common victualler for Soup Shack Company. That's conditioned on getting the hood ventilation fixed. You can't open until you do that, and is approved by the fire department. Number four, question of approving the application for outdoor seating for 10 seats for Soup Shack Company. And finally, number five, approving the application for a new entertainment license for Soup Shack Company for radio, tape music, and television, 7 days a week from 11:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. All in favor? Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Get that hood ventilation
Thank you very
system
much.
fixed.
And check it regularly. That's the cause, one of the causes of fires in this country is stuffed dryers and stuffed hoods.
Thank you. So, so next is question of approving the application for a change in the doing business as name for Brothers and Sisters Company, doing business as Cuckoo Cafe, changing to Brothers and Sisters Company, doing business as Coffee House and Cafe at 7 Station Street. Brothers and Sisters Company LLC is a holder of a common victualler license without alcohol. Any questions?
Just didn't know a coffee house was any different than a cafe. Seems redundant, but
Okay.
that's what you want to call it. Happy to go check it out.
So, all in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Okay. Discussion of select board committee assignments. Are you going to help us out there, Melissa?
So some of these are standard assignments and some of these are new committees. You also had a memo from me on actions that are required after town meeting. A couple of items arose out of that as well, including the Pierce School Building Authority. Not School Building Authority, School Building Committee. I'll be posting notices on the TMM listserv and then the What's New Brookline blog and the website soliciting applications. We also have Lower Boylston Study Committee, which Select Board Member Fernandez has agreed to head up, and as well as the Small Commercial Exemption Committee. Those will need charges, so we can work on that as well. I think everything else is pretty much a couple of shifting assignments. I'll inform the moderator that the electronic posting committee seems to be up and running. That will also be a charge that we'll work on.
Will be up and running.
Yes. And I've informed Kevin Stokes to be looking for us to help, ask for assistance with that as well.
Okay. Sure.
I don't see the land bank study committee on
I
this.
thought we had amended that, but we'll make sure that the final
Yeah,
list
it's,
has
we
it
have,
on
we
there.
had an
Oh,
amended version.
okay.
That was at your table, and that's on there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The-
Land Study Committee.
The Fiscal Advisory Committee is not on there either, but
It's on the copy that I
is
have.
it?
Brookline, fourth one down.
There
Brookline
it is.
Fiscal Advisory Committee.
I wanted to get credit for,
Yes, of
for all the
course.
work I'm doing.
Yes, we're giving you all the credit you deserve. Any questions? We need to approve this, right? Formally approve it, or is this
It's
just
more- It's
information?
more just a discussion to make sure that the board is comfortable with the assignments, if
Okay.
there were any kind of changes or considerations. The charges would need to get approved for the newer committees. And then you'd obviously need to appoint as we get people applying. So we'll be working on, how we'll be soliciting members and how we'll be running the appointment process as well.
Can we go?
I think if people are interested, members of the public who may be watching us at this late-ish hour, I mean, reach out, and a good stock thing to do is fill out the board and commission application, which is on the Select Board's website, is at least a first step to
Yep.
to expressing interest.
For the Pierce School, we actually set up an email address, Pierce SBC, for School Building Committee, at brooklinema.gov.
Okay, other than the Small Business Development Committee, Lower Boylston, and Pierce School, what other charges do we need to?
Electronic
change?
postings.
Oh, electronic postings, okay. And that's it?
Well, we had talked, and I think this, we'll probably have to potentially add another committee pending the outcome of the discussion on the bird bikes, whether or not you would need some, if the pilot moves forward into something more permanent, whether or not you would like a committee to kind of help with the oversight of that.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, but that's off in the future.
Once we
Yeah.
figure out the outcome after when the
Yeah.
pilot's complete.
Okay.
So I'm working on the charge for the electronic posting committee, just so
Okay.
everybody knows.
Okay, good. Make sure the moderator knows, okay?
I leave it to the Mass School Building Authority to work on the charge for the Pierce School building, so.
And Mr. Fernandez is going to work on charge for the small business community, so form his ideas on that. So.
And Kara's
That's
already
right.
aware of this committee being developed, and she's also very excited about the Lower Boylston Street Committee.
Okay.
Great.
Good.
I'm excited too.
Okay, so we've been informed about the committee assignments.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is the summer schedule. Oh, no, I'm sorry, discussion of what about this boards and commissions reappointment?
That's the last
That's the last
matter
one.
on the agenda.
Oh, okay, on the back. Sorry.
Yep.
Okay,
So I have developed a proposed summer meeting schedule, actually two different options. The differences are really whether or not the board feels the need to meet twice in August. The first option assumes, well, first of all, we will be meeting throughout June, so every week in June, and in both cases, we'll skip the 4th of July week. But the only difference, as I said, is whether we meet twice in August. If we only meet once, I would recommend that we meet the day after Labor Day when we resume our normal schedule. The other one, if we meet twice in August, we wouldn't have to meet until September 10th.
Okay, any thoughts?
I'd go for one meeting in August.
Yeah.
Ask me.
I'll second that. And Justin thirds it.
I mean, if we go for option one, that seems to me to have the least sort of back and forth, yes, shall we meet this, shall we not? I mean, it also gives us some certainty. Because the second option really, I don't,
Barring, I mean, having been on this board for now over 5 years, I can say, barring a crisis, there generally isn't enough work to really warrant having a second meeting in August. And if there is a crisis, we'll know pretty quickly and we'll have to meet. So I think I'm comfortable just going with the docketing the one meeting in August, and if there's some emergency, then we'll just have to deal with it at that time.
And do we need 2 meetings in July? Just asking.
I think we do. I think there's licensing things that have to be done, there's contracts that have to be approved, and we are still working on a solution, having conversations about elementary school enrollment, and there's some issues that have carried over not only from the May debt exclusion vote, but also from town meeting that I think warrant having 2 meetings in July and at least having sort of a meeting in which some of these things can be discussed if they're ready to percolate up.
So,
Just to be clear, as of September 3rd, we would then, after that, resume our weekly
That's correct.
meeting schedule?
So enjoy the summer break while it lasts.
it'll be too short, whatever it is.
do we need to vote on this, or it's just?
No.
Everyone agrees? Okay. 1 meeting in August.
Yeah, and I'll try to be here. I just thought I might be up in Maine for an entire week, but I'm sure I can find an excuse to come back for a day.
Especially if it's the only
So
one.
I'm going to come back from the vineyard a couple times, so, it's going to be hard for me, too.
Make some plans.
Yeah, Raul and I will be here.
Recruiting for the Small Business Committee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, next question of making appointments to the following boards and commissions. Board of these are just ongoing reappointments to these boards. No new names have been submitted or anything. Board of Assessors, Building Commission, Conservation Commission, EDAB, Planning Board, Preservation Commission, Tree Planning Committee. What do you just
Yes, so
ask us to?
I will go through a process, but let me just amplify that a bit. So we have determined that we are very far behind on our process for appointing boards and commissions, and we need to catch up. And one way we thought would be an appropriate way to catch up would be to reappoint current members in these various committees that have no other interests. So there is no competition, in other words, for these particular committees. And so our general practice is to interview everybody, including reappointees. But in this case, given the need to catch up, we're proposing that we ask the board to reappoint without the benefit of of interviews. So if you are concerned about that for any of these committees, you should probably let me know now so I don't read the roll.
Anyone have any concerns for anyone? Okay, so read the roll.
All right, in this case, I'm going to read a name or names.
Explain the roll.
Sure. So what I will do is I will read the name, pause, and you will give me your voice vote, aye or nay, and and then I will determine whether there's a majority vote. So, moving from Board of Assessors, Mark Mazer.
Aye.
Building Commission, Janet Fearman.
Yes.
Aye.
Nathan Peck.
Aye.
Moving to the Conservation Commission, Marcus Quigley.
Aye.
Aye.
Roberta Schnorr.
Aye.
Pallavi Kalia Mande.
Aye.
Benjamin Wish.
Aye.
And now moving to the EDAB, the Economic Development Advisory Board, Ann Myers.
Aye.
Susan Houston.
Aye.
Carol Levin.
Aye.
Alden Rain.
Aye.
Thank you. Planning Board, Linda Hamlin.
Aye.
Robert Cook.
Aye.
Now moving to the preservation, so there is a little twist here. There is a vacancy on the Preservation Commission. We have had no expressions of interest. Mr. Pansiera, who's an existing alternate, would like to move up to the full membership. So I will be listing his name as moving up to the full membership as opposed to reappointing him as an alternate. That's Mr. Pansiera. Okay, so full members, Peter Kleiner.
Aye.
Richard Pansiera.
Aye.
And that's it, because the rest are vacancies. So, one more, Tree Planting Committee. Hugh Madison.
Aye.
Nadine Gertz.
Aye.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, when we did these reappointments, they're 3 years from when their term expired.
That's correct.
So if you had a 2017 term expiration, you're reappointed through 2020.
Right, they're all for 3 years.
Okay. And then I just want to take this opportunity to highlight that we've got a couple of vacancies that have gone unfilled. So now we have 2 vacancies as an alternate for preservation. So anybody in the maybe not so vast TV audience, please apply if you're interested. And I think we've got a vacancy as a full member of conservation and a vacancy as an associate member of conservation. So again, please apply if you're interested and have some expertise in either of those areas.
Okay.
Both are very important commissions.
They do a lot of very important work. Okay, seeing nothing else on the agenda.
One more,
move to-
may I, sorry.
Yeah.
I did want to ask about where we are on the naming committee. I know that the naming committee will have something coming before them, and I also noticed that I believe every member of the naming committee's term has lapsed, and including some who were lapsed as of 2017. And I know that there was just a vote to add a couple new positions.
So we're going through this process step by step. I mean, there's a lot of backlog in terms of committees and commissions that we haven't been paying attention to. So the next round is going to be the naming committee and other committees that need to either approve people who've already been interviewed or to interview people who submit their materials. The naming committee in particular, there's at least one new person that has submitted an application and has been interviewed, so we'll try to pull that together.
Is there opportunity now for people to apply?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, move to adjourn. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye, 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 aye. Aye, 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 aye.